Folks. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. Roundtable number 124 is what we're going to be live streaming today. Looks like we might already have a couple people in the chat, and Peter doesn't count, so there's still a couple, though.
I'm not a real person. I'm just Tad's punching bag.
Oh, I mean, it's true. And everyone's punching bag, though. I mean, last time, didn't we have everyone getting in on the thing right at the end there?
Everyone.
Because of the Jolly Chimp.
Ugh, gross.
Got one coming in from Japan.
I really am serious that if you put that in here, we're going to have to start recording with me at my house and you here.
And I'll have to rig it to some kind of remote so I could hide it somewhere and then click the remote and then it starts to clang its cymbals.
It's just going to be all bad if you do this. You will never see me in this office again if that's the case.
Hello, Cody. Hello, Carol. Welcome. Jumping right back in where we left off from last time is making fun of Peter for the whether you call it Cymbal Monkey or whether you call it a real name, the Jolly Chimp. Gotta make sure Peter's aware that I don't know how long it'll take to ship from Japan, but
a long time, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe. So hello also Mark and Mike. Thanks for joining us. So we're here for Roundtable. Let's see, we're a couple minutes early, but wanted to pop in on at least on the YouTube side.
Hello, Spencer.
And say hello to everyone. Yeah, Spencer as well. So Peter might lose his computer in a second because it's running updates because...
Nah, it's old and ancient, and I should bury it in a pit somewhere.
That's what you do to Jolly Chimps, all right? Throw them into lakes so they don't...
those come back and kill people.
Again, that needs to be a Stephen King full-on Hollywood movie. If Annabelle could be a movie, the Cymbal Monkey can be a whole franchise of movies.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be, yeah.
What would you call it?
Probably Monkey.
There's already a movie named Monkey.
So?
I'd call it...
How many movies are called Halloween or Alien?
I'd call it Symbols.
Symbols.
Everyone would be like, oh, you're going to go see Symbols? Oh, like S-Y-M? No.
Oh man, and that would be like that cool, I always love that sound cue horror, like the clicking and Hereditary, or there's just Freddy scratching his fingers on stuff. There's just certain things that when you allow a sound effect to be kind of the reveal that something's coming or whatever. I just love that. I think that's just the next level horror. Sometimes
the one that the most classic one for me is you got the ones where it's not in the movie but it's the soundtrack. You got the dun.
Yeah,
and then Friday the 13th.
Yeah, soundtrack doesn't count though. It's got to be in universe so the people hear it. And they know
the people hear it.
They know that it's coming for them. Mike has a good one. The Clapping Beast.
The Clapping Beast. The Clap of Doom.
And just so everyone knows, August 19th, the movie called Beast with Idris Elba. Peter and I are going to see it along with Hayden. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Mark says, guys, I've just turned 40. It feels weird being the same age as old people. Some of our listeners, Mark, are going to be like, hey, you young whippersnapper.
Every time I find something to tell, because I think recently I just saw there was a 25th anniversary of the movie I Know You Did Last Summer.
Oh, really?
And I told you about it at work. I'm like, hey, do you know I Know You Did Last Summer came out 25 years ago? And you physically... reacted to that. Every time I find those, I definitely share them with Peter.
Every year in January, YouTube is flooded with those.
What ones have anniversaries.
This is 25 years old movie. Here's a 20-year-old song list and everything. And I'm starting to get to the age where it's, hey, I remembered how kids reacted to that. Oh shit! There was one that was 22 years ago. This song came out. I was like, I was in high school. My wife's like, I was. She's like, I think she goes, I was 11, and I'm like, don't say that. No, oh God.
All right, let's go ahead and hit the intro. We got a lot of fun stuff going on in the chat as always. Looks like Carol gives us an update on her rotator cuff. I thought I was gonna have that surgery last year or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. My shoulder was whatever. It finally mended itself. I mean, it was right during COVID, so it wasn't one that it was they were basically saying unless you were going to die, they weren't going to give you any whatever. You couldn't get an operation even unless it was life-threatening. So I was just basically waiting it out till either I was able to get it looked at or it healed itself, and I guess it healed itself because my arm was killing me for I don't even know, it was 6 months. But yeah, let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started. Good to have everyone here. Let's get the podcast side started. As the I don't know, these little YouTube things, they could drag on obviously because it's always fun to just chit chat and all kinds of shenanigans. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the intro.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 124.
124.
Yes, we are chugging right along. It still blows my mind that we're this far into it. It just doesn't. Like everything's compressed in my mind. Like I don't know. It's nuts. And
We started the show last fall. That's still in my mind.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know?
Yeah. We are. Well, first off, let's start off the intros. First, we want to warn you about spoilers. This is a roundtable, so we will spoil things.
Do you want to hit the button? Just because you love that button?
We'll spoil everything in the 7 primary books, for sure, the Dark Tower series. If you haven't finished those, you may want to stick to our book club episodes. Those episodes, probably 95 or more percent of those episodes are spoiler-free. At the very, very end, we have just a small spoiler section for those, but we make sure that you're adequately warned. So if you haven't finished the series, those are safe episodes. This one definitely will not be. I can promise you that. Next up, if you want to find us, you can find us on other places like Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher, or you can find us on any podcasting service. And then if you want to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those services, we'd appreciate that. It helps people find the show. Grow the extended content. If you want to find the show notes, you can do that over at darktowerpalaver.com. All the stuff we cover in today's episode, I'll have over there, as well as there's a little tab for questions for new listeners. If you are a new listener, we welcome you as part of our extended content. And as part of what the Dark Tower series shows us, when someone new joins the content, you got to catch up with your stories and stuff. And those questions are one of the best ways we've found for people to introduce themselves. We've basically been using them since almost day one. We've developed them within the first few months of the show. Yeah. So those are fun. You can answer one of them. You can answer all of them. Anywhere in between. It's more of just a good primer to help you with maybe your introductory email. As well as we have a section for open challenges, which we're going to cover the last one that we have open currently today on today's episode. But if you ever want to check over there, I will admit I'm still trying to get better at actually keeping that updated. But generally, when we have open challenges of things, if you want to join in conversations, you can find those at the show notes as well under the thing that says open challenges. If you want to support the show, you can do that a number of ways, or you can do that. The main way is Patreon, patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. If you want to join us over there. We actually just had we did a commentary for Maximum Overdrive yesterday and posted that in the Patreon. So that was fun. Peter's never seen that. I hadn't seen it since I was a little kid, and I really only remembered the one scene at the baseball field. And I didn't even remember most of it. I just remember the machine shooting cans at people because that was just such a ridiculous image that even like whatever 5, 6, 7-year-old Tad, whatever I was when I first saw it, that stuck with me. So we just watched that, as well as we have our Discord server. You could, if you want to, send Peter symbol monkeys all the time, not just wait to torment him every other week, every fortnight, but if you want to torment him all the time, that the Discord server is the way to do that, and everyone gets access to that on the Patreon as well. And then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Ted, how's our mailbag looking?
We got one.
One.
Yeah.
So
we'll see if we get to it or not. I mean, we had a couple for the open challenge. I don't count that. That's part of the open challenge. But just normal mail, and we'll see if we get to that one today. It really just depends on how this episode pans out time-wise. So
now's the time. If you want to send in an email and you want to start a discussion, or you just want to email and tell us anything. New listeners, if you want to send in those survey questions, any number of them you can. Then check out our show. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Like and subscribe. Ring the bell to get notifications for when we go live. We will be posting videos here and there. We're still waiting on the Salem's Lot trailer. Still nothing. Here we are in July. It comes out in 2 months, and we haven't got anything yet. We did a Firestarter reaction trailer. To the trailer of Firestarter. There's going to be more stuff coming with that.
Definitely.
And then our social media is @DarkTowerPod for the Twitter. That's @DarkTowerPod. Instagram is all one word, Dark Tower Palaver. And then our merchandise is available on TeePublic. It's teepublic.com/users/DarkTowerPalaver. We got our main one. That's #TadIsTerrible. And then we got the alternate over there.
That is not the main one. The main one is the proper logo. We're not talking about this slander over here. See, you're trying to trick me to see if I'm not listening.
Yeah. I also wanted to throw out there, Zach said he is here. He says, hi, I'm going to listen while I drive. Have a good show. So he's probably not going to be in the chat chatting.
Yeah.
I hope he's not. Better not be. But hi, Zach. We wanted to say hi.
Unless you got Christine as your car.
That's true. Christine can drive, and then you can.
Yeah, you can chat along.
That's a real thing. I guess that's a real thing now.
No, not really.
No, there's not self-driving cars.
No.
I think
Tesla tells you have to have your hands on the wheels at all times.
They tell you this, but do you do it? Is the question.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But don't do it, Zach. Have fun listening.
A lot of people also talking about having kids at different ages, at different points in our show here. And then how much older they are now. What about you? How old was your kid when we started the show?
Like I said in the chat, she was 5.
Oh, did you say that in chat? Maybe that's why. Maybe you sparked that conversation.
No, Mark said it. He says, I remember telling you I had a 2-week-old. That was 3.5 years ago. I responded to him and said, I feel you, Mark. My daughter was 5 when we started. She will be 10 in October.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Half her life I've been doing this show.
that kind of thing happens for sure.
This year is when we start to move past. More of her life has been spent while I've been recording with you than without it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully some horror movies this year. Get her started down that realm. She's more than old enough now.
I am definitely gonna have her watch Jaws sometime this summer.
Yeah. Again, I don't count that as a horror, but it's at least.
You're crazy if you don't think it's a horror. You're crazy.
It's not. If it is, Jurassic Park is.
No.
They're the same movie, man.
Not in the same. No, they are not. They do not have the same vibe.
They're the same movie. No. The only difference is John Williams' score. It's the only difference.
They're both John Williams.
I know, but the tone he went for is the only difference between those movies. Like Jurassic Park is a little bit more like triumphant stuff. Jaws is more sinister.
There was no confrontation at the end of Jurassic Park to put the killer down. It was, oh no, these wild animals, we have to escape them.
Yes,
that's not the same.
Deal.
That's not the same.
The kitchen scene with the kids is the same, if not more scary than that last boat scene in Jaws. That's all I'm saying.
They both have horror elements, but just say that Jaws is not a horror film.
It's not.
That is wrong, sir.
It's an
#TadIsTerrible for that one, and you deserve that.
No, it's an action adventure. So we are today on the 16th, where we're doing Roundtable 124.
Yeah.
And then let's just remind everyone, we also have one in a fortnight from now, which is actually the 30th. This will be one of our rare months where we have 3 episodes in a month, just so everyone knows. A fortnight from now, book club for the Wastelands Part 17. So be ready for that. And then I guess we can also announce, we don't have a lot of details yet. We're waiting on some things to come together. But the Patreon folks already kind of knew this. But before the year is over, definitely, and maybe in the next couple months, we are going to be launching a second podcast that will basically be, I guess, everything that's not Stephen King.
Not Stephen King. You want to hear us talk about Jaws versus Jurassic Park? You want to hear us talk about Star Wars, Marvel, Batman versus Superman, all that stuff that we've mentioned, and just kind of sprinkle in here in the Dark Tower Palaver. This is
sometimes people ask us in the emails and stuff.
It's true. But. And we've had it come up in chat and stuff like that. We are going to be doing a new show. No official details yet, like Tad said.
Yeah,
by the end of the year.
There's a couple things we gotta get ironed out before we can for sure nail down a date. But definitely tune in the next little bit. We'll definitely be having some announcements.
Can I announce the one thing that we do know for sure? That nothing's going to change with this show.
Definitely not.
That is the one thing we would definitely want to announce now, is that the schedule for this show, twice a month, every 2 weeks kind of format, is going to be the same.
only thing that will change is for the live stream folks. When we did that episode back in June, where we did one episode where we did 2 in one day, that was actually kind of a test to see how it would work, because that's essentially what we're going to do. Is we're still going to record every 2 weeks, but we're going to do 2 episodes back to back. We're going to do 2 Dark Tower shows and then the 2 of the other show,
the new show.
So we'll still be recording every other week, but nothing like this show isn't really going to change, except for the live stream folks. If you guys want to join us live, it'll just basically be back to back episodes, and we're most likely, and this is not even just because of the new show and this new format, but we're going to most likely be moving to 1 round table to 1 book club every other, and it's not just that, like, things are getting a little bit sparse on news and stuff. I mean, there's always obviously conversation stuff to have, but I just don't know if we necessarily have enough stuff to justify 2 round tables for every book club. So it's probably going to become more of an every other episode bounce back and forth between the 2. So
Cody, what's wrong? Why are you mad?
So yeah, that
you
is.
You put an angry emoji in the chat. What's wrong?
Well, I'm glad it's an emoji, but I don't know.
Oh, Mike does ask, how does Mrs. Peter feel about Peter not living at Tad's? I used to live with Tad. That's the funny thing, is that, I used to live in the room right on the other side of this wall here. Oh, we forgot to do the setup video.
So ultimately, that's what's ultimately stopped us, is the time thing. But that's what we ended up figuring out, is like we're ultimately going to probably have to tighten the belt a little bit on these episodes. You'll probably see a lot less 4-hour episodes, but we'll be recording live with 2 episodes back to back. You're basically still going to be getting 4 hours of recording. It'll just be 2 episodes,
and then the podcast schedule proper is going to remain the same. So when we record, just like we did last time, we recorded an episode for like the 4th of June and the 11th of June. Oh, no, the 18th of June.
Yeah.
We still released, a few days, like the next day. The 5th was when the episode dropped, and then Tad holds on to the other episode until 2 weeks after that to release that other episode. So the schedule for Dark Tower Palaver will not change in the slightest. The little bit of change that we will have is the length of the episode. We are going to be recording 4 hours, 2 episodes straight. So we are going to be looking at keeping those a little bit more structured and condensed, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. But we will promise the fans this: tangents will never go away.
No,
they're here to stay. If that happens, we'll push news stories, we'll push emails and everything like that. Tangents are not going anywhere.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it may end up being that we get a tangent right in the intro or something, and then we don't cover anything else in the episode.
It's happened.
I mean,
it's literally happened.
We've had like an hour tangent in the intro before. So that announcement. So but keep your eyes peeled on the show, and we'll have some a little bit more solid announcements coming very soon. I would say next episode, but I know that's a book club, and I know not everyone listens to book clubs in real time, but chances are, by that episode, though, we probably will have some stuff to announce. So on the 13th,
you may want to check that show out just to hear the announcements.
The announcements, yeah. DTP equals tangent Palaver. Yeah,
that's right.
That's about right.
I do want to say one thing. I don't know if you're covering this, because again, I usually come into these shows blind. Captain Daveman in the chat says Salem's Lot was pushed back to next year, I believe. I have Googled it. Salem's Lot is scheduled to be theatrically released in the United States on April 21st, 2023 by Warner Brothers.
That's in the news.
Damn it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, the fact that we haven't seen anything.
That's true.
We'll cover that when we get to the. We're diving into it now, but the news that's on the tail end of the news. We got a few other things to cover beforehand, so let's go ahead and dive in. This first one.
Okay.
I actually almost put it in the last episode, but there was just so much that we had that I had to bump it, and it broke my heart, because this one is just totally on brand for me.
This is gonna hurt me, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because if you say it's on brand for you, that means I'm in pain. So
usually yes, but in this case, no.
Oh,
so the article is every time The Simpsons reference Stephen King.
Oh, okay.
So. Honestly, when I saw this, I was just like, absolutely got to cover this. In fact, and I actually wondered, like, is there going to be more than I've even seen? Because there came a point when I got my first job that I pretty much stopped watching The Simpsons.
Sure.
Because I just didn't have the time to actually follow the show. At some point now that with Disney Plus, I'm going to have to go through and watch them all, even the news. Like, so for me, almost half the show is going to be unseen. Sometime I'll go through that. But
yeah.
I was interested to see I already know some of these, of course.
I know one that I've definitely seen.
Yeah. So this is by Cathal Gunning from Screen Rant on June 18th, 2022. And I will say this person in their opening thing Sorry, there's like a little hair on the microphone.
Oh,
It's
I
like
hate when
driving
I get
crazy.
those.
But the very intro thing that it's like he was like equating it to like The Simpsons and Stephen King or whatever, and he's like, yeah, both of them are really popular in the '90s, and then he's like, and then both have had a sharp decline since. I'm like, what? I'm like, one, I don't think anyone would say Stephen King's prime is in the 90s. Like, probably the 80s would what most people would say. So that's wrong. And then obviously there has been no dip. I mean, if anything, King has gotten exponentially better since the 90s.
I think there was a slight dip in the 90s where some...
But he's saying the dip happened after the 90s.
Oh, no.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, some of his best work has come out since the 90s.
It's the resurgence of King
Yeah,
started... We're literally doing a challenge covering the Silver Age of King.
Yeah.
Like, the second best era of King is 2000 on.
Yeah.
Like...
But so he goes on here, says The Simpsons has not only featured 2 appearances from King himself, says 1 voice cameo and the other was a silent glimpse of the author, but the series also has included a lot of references to his books and movies from the writer's back catalog. Springfield's First Family is almost as fond of referencing Stephen King as South Park, with both cartoon comedies using King's terrifying tales as basis for goofy parodies. However, The Simpsons used one of King's non-horror works as inspiration for a more serious episode that divided audiences, as well as provided viewers arguably the most iconic spoof of King's work ever produced. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and dive in. The first one, Treehouse of Horror 5, or Simpsons Halloween Special, if you're actually paying attention. They're not called Treehouse of Horror. Only one of them was a Treehouse of Horror. The rest of them are called Simpsons Halloween Specials, unless they've changed that. But in the first dozens of seasons, I think almost all of them are called Halloween specials. So, but everyone just calls them whatever. But this is Treehouse of Horror 5, season 6, episode 6. It's arguably the best and most parodied, or the best movie parodied that The Simpsons ever pulled off. The Shinning from The Simpsons season 6, episode 6, Treehouse of Horror 5, is also comfortably one of the best Treehouse of Horror segments ever. A shot-for-shot spoof of Kubrick's iconic adaptation of The Shining. The Shinning makes Homer its Jack Torrance, Bart its bratty version of Danny, and Groundskeeper Willie is a stand-in for the doomed Dick Halloran. From the bare bones setup, the segment manages to poke memorable fun at almost all of the unforgettable imagery and quotable lines from The Shining, resulting in the pitch-perfect piece of parody. And yeah, I mean, it's one of the most iconic. I mean, how often do we mention The Shining and The Shining doesn't at least get referred to it?
Anytime in my house, and sometimes when I'm at work, if someone says The Shining, I go, don't you mean The Shining? Shh, I want to get sued. That is the one of the most quoted lines that I say to my wife is that if it comes up.
Yeah.
I went home 2 weeks ago from our episode, and I dropped that line on her because we started talking about The Shining as soon as I walked in.
Yeah.
So it's
it
is what it is.
Probably my favorite joke from it though is when the blood comes out and burns. It's like, oh, usually the blood gets off on the second floor.
I do want to say, I don't want to get too far past this. When the author of this article was saying that the 90s was the peak King, Mike said, an obvious fan of the Langoliers.
Yeah, I mean, that must be it. That must be it.
Also, Cody has an idea for a Tangents jingle. He wants me to sing it in the tune of the email jingle saying Tangents is the Tangents. Everyone is going to derail the show.
Well, go ahead.
No. I've been soundbited too many times. I'm not falling for it this time.
Okay, so he's got to wait for you to do it by accident.
Which is how you get everything from me. So. Yeah. Cody says, I like the Simpsons episode where King is pitching a new story and grabs a lamp and says it's an interdimensional lamp.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this covers that or not. So the next one, though, is Insane Clown Poppy, and this is season 12, episode 3. It says, although King has appeared on The Simpsons twice, his first cameo on the show was a more substantial appearance and even featured an accidental allusion to one of his future novels. So this is one of those Simpsons predicted it things. King,
which they've done a lot.
Yeah. So King cropped up in the 12th season, episode 3, Insane Clown Poppy, where he guest starred as an unhinged parody of himself alongside Drew Barrymore as Krusty's estranged daughter. Then it says, interestingly, one of Drew Barrymore's breakthrough roles is the 1980s adaptation of Firestarter. Yep. In the cameo, King tells Marge that he is working on a rare non-horror novel, only for his description of the book about Benjamin Franklin's discovery of electricity to turn dark, macabre, and sinister within a few seconds. Also, the clouds descend in on him too as he's saying it. Although the book, of course, never came into existence, the later Stephen King novel Revival did feature a plot centering around experiments with electricity and accidentally opening to a horrific dimension. Because basically, as a Simpsons fan, I can tell you, basically what he says is he's like, Marge's like, oh, what kind of macabre story are you coming up with next? He's like, oh no, I'm not. I'm doing a biography on Benjamin Franklin. And he's like, he discovered electricity. And then he says something like, then he used that electricity to like torture small animals and stuff. And he's like, and the kite or the key put on the kite, that was the key to the gateway of hell. And like the thunder
clouds,
comes in the background.
the clouds are all.
And then
I think you showed me that one.
And then Marge is like, oh, okay, well, let me know when you get back to horror. And she walks away. He's like, will do. And he, on a little post-it note, it says, get back to Marge about horror. So it's hilarious. But it does sound like that may have been predicting Revival a little bit. Electricity, like key to the door of
reviving
hell.
dead.
It's just very, very interesting. But yeah, and then it is actually Stephen King as well, not just a person
pretending to be Stephen King.
No, Stephen King himself was on there, which is great. Next up is The Blunder Years, season 13, episode 5. The Simpsons, The Blunder Years is one of the more divisive episodes in the show, although not because it's another superfluous Simpsons celebrity cameo. It says, admittedly, Paul Newman does crop up in the episode momentarily, but the appearance is well liked by critics and doesn't outstay its welcome. Instead, the episode's plot is an issue with the episode's plot is the issue with the outing, which details the story of how Homer came across a dead body in his youth and borrows a good chunk of the story from Stephen King's coming-of-age novella The Body, adapted into acclaimed dramedy Stand By Me. The Body's tragicomic tale of adolescent friends trekking miles to see a dead body and learns a lot about life and the other things along the way. However, while King collaborator and future Misery director Rob Reiner found the right balance for the movie's tone, the Simpsons episode that took the inspiration from this plot was a touch too dark and bleak for many viewers. So I do remember this episode. I don't know that I actually connected it to Stephen King. I think it was just one of those things. I don't think I had seen Stand By Me, but I don't think it like connected. But once I read this, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes total sense. It is just it is basically just Stand By Me. And obviously the one on the thing on the screen is the young Homer and young Lenny and young Carl on their journey to go find the dead body.
Yeah.
The next one is Treehouse of Horror 15, season 16, episode 1. This is arguably one of the most underrated Halloween specials. The Treehouse of Horror 15 saw the show feature a segment entitled The Ned Zone. As the title implies, the sequence parodies the Dead Zone, with Ned Flanders as a Springfield citizen that is cursed with the ability to see the future at inopportune moments and predicts how others will die. Like most of the movie parodies featured in the annual Halloween specials, the Ned Zone takes a lot of liberties with its source material. The spoof essentially just borrows only the basic premise of the King story, but it's tough to follow this when the parody results in one of the best late season Treehouse of Horror episodes. It not only it's not as inspired as the same episode from Hell parody, but this is still an underseen classic from the show's later years, which I don't know if you can call season 16 the later years when they're in like season 32 now.
Yeah.
So
that's the halfway mark.
Yeah, it's like halfway.
When did this article come out? Like 2004 or something?
No, but it's someone that's probably more in my age group, so anything like that feels later, but really it's not when you put it in perspective.
Jeez.
And then the last one here, Treehouse of Horror 24, and see, this is season 25. It says, after his first cameo, predicted the novel Revival and provided or proved that even Stephen King's career wasn't immune from the South Park maxim that Simpsons did everything already. The author appeared again, and says, in similarly scary form in the chalkboard gag from The Simpsons season 25 episode 2, Treehouse of Horror. The opening credit sequence, conceived by horror legend Guillermo del Toro, is one of the most elaborate Treehouse of Horrors in history, and King's cameo is only one of the many moments where iconic figures from horror are spoofed in a fast-paced scene. The Simpsons spoofed a movie adaptation that King famously hated, the 1980s The Shining, as Bart writes the famous quote, "All work and no play make Jack a dull boy," only for the camera to pull back and reveal that an unhinged-looking version of King himself was scrawling the same message all over the walls of the classroom. So, which is what you're seeing on the thing.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually voice for this one, so it wasn't an actual like cameo.
Yeah.
I guess it is if you count like his image being a cameo, but he didn't actually voice it. But yeah, so Mr. King showed up again here in season 25. So. That's all that he has for the article. I don't know if there may be more. It feels like there would be more. It feels to me like there would be.
I gotta feel like there's somewhere in there is a Pennywise reference. Like there's gotta be, right? Especially with like the new It movies and everything, there's gotta be something with Pennywise in The Simpsons.
Yeah, you'd think so,
right?
Yeah, definitely think so. I will say though, we did skip over the fact that one thing we mentioned, we actually did a hangout last night or yesterday.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so just as a tease, I should have done this during the segment for Patreon. But we did a hangout and we watched Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
Which was fun. I actually honestly enjoyed the hell out of it.
I did too.
I really
it's
did.
It's not a great movie.
It does.
I'm not going to go out on a limb and say like, oh, that's the best movie I've seen
Simpsons,
this year.
Simpsons reminds me because Yardley Smith was.
Yeah, Lisa Simpson was in it before she really was Lisa Simpson.
Yeah, a year before the Simpsons did their first Tracy Ullman short.
Yeah,
she was in that movie as well as Giancarlo Esposito, which is Gus Fring
and Emilio Estevez.
Yeah, there was a few surprises.
Commissioner Gordon.
But so if you want to watch like a commentary, but it was more of a reaction because we would
I've
have
never seen it.
Yeah, we haven't. But if you wanted to like watch it along with, put the sound in your ear and then listen to us watching it and whatever.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. For sure.
And then something happened. So I'm over here. We're recording. We finish, and Tad's like, "All right, well, I got something I got to do." I was like, "All right, man, I'll see you later." And I go to leave his house, and I walk out into his driveway, and my car's parked on the street. And Tad lives in a neighborhood, not on a busy street.
Yeah.
In a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So houses, like as far as the eye can see, right?
Yeah.
In front of Tad's house, I shit you not, is a line of cars, probably 30, 40 cars just in a line going down the road as far as you can see. And I just stopped and just stared.
Because Maximum Overdrive, obviously.
So if you haven't seen Maximum Overdrive or read the short story that is based off of trucks, anything basically with an engine comes alive and starts trying to kill human beings.
Yeah.
It becomes homicidal. In the movie, it's a lot of cars, mostly semi-trucks that are doing it. But still, to walk out of Tad's house and have 30 to 40 cars just lined up in a row, blocking me from leaving.
Yeah.
I swear to God, if you planned this in any way or did this, so just like
here's the thing that just sparked with me though. There's a Simpsons episode where they are doing a Y2K thing, and it actually felt Maximum Overdrive-ish because everything with a chip starts to malfunction and actually tries to start killing people.
Oh, really?
So now that I'm thinking about it, that doesn't count. Like he didn't put this on his article here, but that had to have been a Maximum Overdrive reference. Like. Yeah, because like everything that has a computer chip starts to like go nuts and try to like kill people.
Didn't they also have the one in the Treehouse of Horrors where like mascots and billboards came alive?
Yeah, there's that. That's not really Stephen King, though. But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, there's definitely some more Simpsons references, but let's see.
It
was. And then Mike says they all start up at once.
Yeah, and so Tad comes out and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know, dude, but I don't want to go to my car."
Yeah.
No, this is not okay.
Yeah, well, what it ultimately is at the end of the neighborhood is a baseball diamond.
Yeah,
and I think a game had just let out, so there was probably a few hundred people trying to leave at the same time.
It's not just a diamond. It's like where they have like 4 fields. So it's like a tournament was going on, and it ended at the perfect time I finished Maximum Overdrive, and I walk into Tad's house, and there's just this line of cars. So
I wish one of them would have been a truck, though.
Dude,
a Mack truck.
Dude, I passed a semi going home, and I'm just like, huh?
Did it have a Green Goblin face on it?
No, it did not have a Green Goblin face on it. But it was a beer truck. And there was a beer truck in Maximum Overdrive. So I was like, I'm watching you. And it was going the opposite way of me. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Cody says, did it predict or inspire? Honestly, I don't know if King has... I think he's used enough drugs. I don't think that even if he remembered that line from The Simpsons, it would have inspired revivals. So probably more of just Simpsons.
That was a ways back, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that one with Marge.
Yeah, that one was all. It said season 12. So whatever that would be.
19.
And then
2001.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Maybe King is a Stephen, or maybe King is a Simpsons fan. I would honestly believe he would be. It just feels like Simpsons just such that piece of Americana, and what is King a fan of if not Americana stuff?
Oh yeah.
So yeah. Oh, and then Cody says, I guess they were both in the rock group Rock Bottom Remainders. Oh yeah, which that's true. That was Matt Groening, wasn't it? That was in a band with Stephen King.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, I believe. And then there was somebody else too. Matt Groening. Stephen King. I'm trying to remember. I think there was another author. band. Let's
Is
see.
it Dean Koontz?
Yeah, here we go. Here it is. Members include Dave Barry, Stephen King, Amy Tan, Sam Barry, Ridley Pearson, Scott Turow. I'm trying to see if there's someone else that jumps out. Matt Groening, yeah. There's a lot of people. Maya Angelou.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, guess that's all I'm thinking. But so, yeah, I'm sure that connection probably doesn't hurt the fact that they were in a band together. So yeah, there quite a bit of people there. But good call, Cody. I actually completely forgot that. I knew that as a Simpsons fan, even more so than being a King fan. I knew that from being a Simpsons fan, but somehow it's been lost in my mind. So and also hello, Alan. Alan popped in. Good to see you, Alan. All right, so the next one here is a lot of fun, and I want to see what your reaction to this is. And this is a bit of a can of worms. There's no definitive thing. I believe Chris from Australia has also done a version of this, but it's basically what's the reading order for the extended Dark Tower read.
Okay.
And so this is an article by Michael Boyle from Slash Film on June 23rd, 2022. And yeah, so I just wanted to. You've probably read a good chunk of these, but I just kind of want to get your feel for kind of what he outlines here. So he starts off, says Stephen King's fantasy series, The Dark Tower, is one of the craziest things you'll ever read. Definitely true. Written with no clear plan in mind, the 7-book series spans multiple universes, multiple genres, and multiple timelines, and somehow manages to stay consistently entertaining the whole way through.
Yep.
Yeah. Can't disagree.
Nope.
The series is yet to become a mainstream hit, however, in part because it's not quite as accessible as some other big fantasy series like Song of Ice and Fire that's self-contained. The Dark Tower is a series that is best enjoyed if you've already read a couple of Stephen King's novels first. Mm-hmm. In fact, the more familiar you are with King, the fuller the experience you'll have here, because even though all the main characters' arcs are self-contained throughout the 7, and then he says in parentheses, 8, which I'm glad he makes that mistake because I do the same thing all the time. Even in the intro, most of the time I say 7 primary books, but
sure.
We probably should also talk about Went to the Keyhole as well. But I don't think we spoiled that one as much.
No.
Then it says books. It says 8 books in the series. There are a ton of references to King's other books. As the series continues, the more connected the other King novels in the series becomes, which definitely true.
Cody just said Greg Isles' Blood Meridian is on King's favorite book list, so that's who the other band member was.
Oh, okay. There was a bunch of them that were listed
you were
there.
thinking of, yeah. That's an author.
Yeah. It's kind of like a lot of like more literary people. And then Matt Groening's in there for some reason.
He's a literary person. He's a writer.
I don't know if it's literary though.
He's a writer.
Writing for. I don't know when the last time he's actually written something is. Now he just cashes checks for the most part. I think. There's a whole writers team that does the show now. So starting off here, he starts off with the Gunslinger. I mean, where else do you start but there, right?
Okay.
And he says the Gunslinger is the shortest book in the series and the most atmospheric. It's my second favorite, just to how good of a job King does establishing Roland as a hardened, lonely traveler who will do anything to reach the titular Dark Tower. He says it's not the best book for setting the tone of the series. However, the Gunslinger's low-key story following one character in a world almost entirely disconnected from our own. There's little to ground the reader here, and Roland is something of a cold character in this opening installment. Although this book easily hooked me in, it's common for readers to consider this one of the weakest installments of the series. In which we've actually discussed that over time. We've even had people that said they've referenced friends and stuff to just start at book 2, and then read the argument to catch up for everything in book 1, and then read book 1 after book 7. So definitely a discussion point we've had. But what I have found though is there are people that like book 1, and they're pretty adamant about loving it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's definitely outside of number 4. It's probably the most divisive in terms of there's no clear. It's not like book 2 where everyone just loves it. Like I've never heard anyone say like, book 2, that's all right. Like everyone is like.
And then the last 3 books, 5, 6, and 7. There's a lot of diversity there, with how people feel, mixed feelings and whatnot.
Yeah.
Cody clarifies it's Notch's Burning series by Greg Isles, not the Blood Meridian.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
All right. And then he says, and because King's understanding of this series evolved over time, I'd suggest you make sure to get the 2003 revised edition of The Gunslinger, which is a little bit of a more polished than the original. There is some foreshadowing thrown in, and overall it helps the book to fit more neatly into the rest of the series. And he says, however, the 1982 copy is still great. It makes the transition into the rest of the series a little more jarring, but there's something fun about getting to see the full shift within the next 2 books as the series becomes increasingly sure of itself. Reading the 1982 1982 copy is something like watching a pilot of an episode of a beloved sitcom where the show hadn't really found its voice yet, but you can still see the spark of what would make what would make it great. Which that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done that on a number of shows where you watch some of those early episodes, you're like, man, I can't believe this is the same show as what you see later on.
There's several shows that I go back and rewatch. Parks and Recreation is one. Dude,
Yeah.
skip the first season. It's not that good. There's people.
The Office season 1
The
is
Office.
terrible.
Well, The Office season 1 is
In
terrible,
my opinion,
and then
yeah,
people
it's
with The Office, me and you included, won't watch the last couple seasons because what's the point when Michael Scott's gone? So it's interesting how that happens with some stuff where it's just like, yeah, skip the first couple seasons or skip the first season or.
Yeah.
Skip the first movie, you know. in some cases, like Terminator, just skip that first.
Oh,
movie.
hey now,
it's garbage, you know.
No. Terminator is a great movie, sir. When I was a wee child, I would have agreed with you, but as an adult, the original Terminator is great. So next up, he goes to drawing of the 3, which I don't think there's any debate there. You just go from book 1, book 2. That all makes sense. From here is where it gets a little bit more split. But he says, my personal favorite of the series. This is the book where the Dark Tower series becomes the Dark Tower series. It centers around a lone wolf Roland being forced to acquire a team of companions that'll stick with him throughout the whole journey. With Roland in the most desperate situations we've ever seen him in so far, he's forced to jump into New York City of our world at various points, 87, 64, and 77. And the cultural shock Roland experiences as he does is one of the most entertaining aspects of the whole series. And we definitely agree there. That's one of the best. Yeah. And whether it's in this book or later on, anytime that Roland crosses into our world or experiences our world in some way, I always love it. It's my favorite stuff. I'm a sucker for it. Like if Stephen King just did a whole book that was just like, oh yeah, just this random time in Roland's life, or like he got separated and he just crossed over into New York for a 300-page book. Like that'd be cocaine to me. I would be all about it.
Cody said, Baraki, I'm sorry if I said that wrong, says, Wolves will always be my fave. Hey, same here. I love them all, but also I think book 1 is underrated. And I think if you're going to pick a book in the Dark Tower series that is underrated, it's got to be Gunslinger.
Yeah.
Like like if I said to you, of all 8 Dark Towers, which one is underrated?
Honestly, I'm going to argue Song of Susanna, man. People shit on that book.
Saying that.
People shit on that book, but it's like, just read that book out of context of the rest of the series. Some of my favorite stuff of the last portion of the whole story, some of my favorite shit of it is in that book. So I think that one's
you were pointing
super
that out.
underrated.
What was it, like a month or two ago? You were pointing out, like, man, if you actually think about it, like some of the good stuff that you associate with book 7 is actually in book 6.
Yeah,
Jake's freak out with the cab driver.
Yeah,
the shootout at the gas station and meeting
which is a good one.
Andrew
Cullum. John Cullum.
John Cullum.
Yeah.
Meeting John Cullum. That's all in book 6. That's not book 7.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and everything like that. It's
and that's Stephen King.
And that's where you get some Roland being fish out of water. Is he's in our world for that.
Yeah.
That's all book 6.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and but either way, I agree with you though. Gunslinger is one that would generally be seen as underrated though.
Oh yeah.
And then he goes on with book 2. It says, not only is this an absolute page turner, which, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's a book that really sets the tone for the rest of these books. If you didn't like The Gunslinger, don't give up until you've at least tried this one out, which is agreed. I don't know if I've ever told anyone to skip the first book, but I've always told people at least muscle through the first book and read at least 40 pages of this next book. And if you're not into it at that point, you could just give up the series because I do think that most people that read book 2 get hooked pretty early on. And he says, here the scope of the series widens dramatically. In the moment the new characters are introduced, you'll wonder how the series could have ever existed without them.
Yeah.
Peter could definitely attest to that, too, with Mr. Eddie Dean being your favorite character.
He's my boy.
I'd go to book 4 where Randall Flagg shows up, as the...
He's in the first one, dude.
I know, but he's really Randall Flagg in...
He's Randall Flagg in the first one, pulling that... Oh, I died.
No,
running away like a coward.
But when he has the whole, he's calling himself Randall Flagg, he's telling, what's his name to say my life for you and stuff, that's, full on, we'll get there, though.
Yeah.
And then he says this is also where King starts to reference his other works. He says here a character describes something that he's seen in the Kubrick movie adaptation of The Shining, and he says it's a moment where that makes you as a reader think, wait, is King allowed to do that? And you know what's funny is I actually did that. I stopped my tracks at that point of book 2 the very first time, and I was like, wait a minute. And I don't know if I exactly said, can he do that? But I remember just thinking Wait,
Is
and
that-
like
is that
and like
allowed?
and like yeah, like wires crossed in my brain, and I just like the old internet sound played for a couple seconds, and then like I clicked out of it. And I'm like, okay, he just referenced The Shining in his own book.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And then he says, can a character reference a movie that only exists because of a book written by the author who's writing said character? Turns out, yes, King is allowed to do stuff like this, and it's only going to get crazier from there. So, which yes, that's true. Yeah, and then Baraki says also underrated is Wizard, one of the most emotionally powerful books, but any of them with scenes with Roland pre-Psycho life is gold to me. And the things I would say with book 4 is that one to me is the most divisive.
Yeah.
People either love that book or hate it, and there's some people that never get over hating it. Me, I hated it the first time, but now it's my absolute favorite book.
Sure.
But there's some people I still will see like in different forums that will just shit on book 4 where they're just like,
we've done that when we did our ranking of the Dark Tower books 1 through 8.
yeah. So I do think that's that is the most divisive. I don't know if for me in my mind, and I'm not like whatever. I don't know if I could if you call book 4 underrated as much as I'd call it divisive, because I don't think most people overlook book 4, but I think there are some. It's just the style of it just clashes with what they wanted.
You have people like me that definitely loved book 4 right from the start. Man, I loved Wizard and Glass. Like, it was my favorite book until I read Wolves of the Kala.
Yeah.
And it's still up there for me. I mean, after, future, next, second, third, fourth readings and everything like that, Wastelands and Drawing of the Three, I realized what masterpieces those are and everything. So Wizard and Glass slipped down a little bit, but still, I still love Wizard and Glass. I never disliked it. I never had that issue like you did, and so many others have had it too.
Yeah.
Where they're like, God damn it, no, path to the tower, get to the goddamn tower.
That was
I don't
me,
want to
yeah.
go back.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here reading 900 pages of past
Yeah,
shit.
I remember when I was reading it the first time, I would grab like 50 pages and moved it just to see like, okay,
What names are there?
yeah,
and
like
everything.
are we past this flashback yet? And I ended up like doing that a number of times until I was like almost the end of the book and realized like this is the
God,
whole book.
You're like, God damn it.
I was pissed, man. I wasn't into it, but it is my favorite book now.
Yeah.
So next up, now is where he jumps into bonus material. Or I'm sorry, maybe I don't have I missed a slide. All right. Well, he has bonus material, The Stand and The Eye of the Dragon at this point, after drawing the 3. I don't know how, I swear to God I made a slide for this. Maybe it's out of order. We'll see here.
Uh-oh.
But he says, although the Dark Tower series as a whole mostly stands on its own, it certainly helps if you're familiar with other King works. Going into book 3, the King novel that will most enhance your experience is The Stand. This massive, not so timely at all story about a pandemic that gets out of hand is not only one of Stephen King's most famous and well-regarded works, but it serves as an introduction to the character Randall Flagg, the hero of the story. Flagg is basically the devil, and he pops up in some form or another in plenty of King's other works.
He's the devil.
That's this guy's opinion, and it's slanderous. You already kind of seen him in the Gunslinger, but it's best to go into Wizard and Glass with deeper understanding of the character that The Stand brings. It says Randall Flagg also plays a role in the Eyes of the Dragon, a short family-friendly fantasy novel that, like The Stand, shines some light on the unique character. And although Roland Deschain is never mentioned, the village the book takes place in exists in Roland's world. This is a much shorter novel than The Stand, so it wouldn't be a crime if you chose to just read this book and save the 1,000+ page epic for a later date. And he says, just promise you'll read The Stand before Wizard and Glass, all right?
Oh, I was going to be like, dude, we need to like find this guy, because don't you ever say don't read The Stand.
Yeah, I was
Like,
worried there that he was going to say that too. I'm like,
he saved himself a beating in the end.
yeah, ultimately, because you got to read The Stand. It's such a great
It's The
book.
Stand. Speaking of which, we went to lunch yesterday before the hangout, and we get into Tad's car, and he plugs his phone in, and Tom Cullen pops up and starts talking. I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Yes, indeed.
M-O-O-N, that spells Tom
And
Cullen.
in fact, I mentioned it before we put the cameras on, but I'm there in the very end. I'm on Christmas Day with Tom and Tom and Stu. They're not back yet, and they encounter some wolves, and Tom kind of goes into one of his trance states and says that he is in the wolves still. And of course that gives Stu, whatever. And then Stu is like, is he dead? Did he die? And he's like, he never dies. And all I have to say is thank you, Tom, because that brings me so much comfort
Ugh.
to know that Flagg never dies.
Gross.
That's
just
brings
gross.
me so many happy feelings. Anything I missed in the chat here?
Oh, there's a lot. Carol says, I agree with getting through book 1. I tried and put it down for a year or so. Same, roughly, for me. I don't think I went a full year or I just went a couple months. Then picked it back up and got through it. Really excited to start drawing, which is my favorite. Alan says Flag plus devil. Yep, that's right. He is the devil. Not him is like the devil. He is the devil.
He's a lovable character.
Baraki says, agree. I even like the stories of Roland's world pre-Roland, like Keyhole. Very cool. I do like those.
Yeah.
Mike says, so to summarize this article, this is the proper order for you to for your next 7,000 pages of reading.
Yeah, indeed.
No shit.
You already got a lot with with
Stand.
with the Dark Tower, and then you throw the Stand in there.
Oof.
And just wait, it gets better.
Oh, but wait.
Yeah.
There's more.
Now the next thing, he does get this wrong. The Wastelands, he spells as one word. I left it there, even though it hurt me to do so.
That's how he put it.
That's how he put it. I know that's incorrect. I know it's supposed to be 2 words. So don't blame me.
Okay.
Just,
Okay.
I have to preface that because I don't want my cred to be attacked here, where it's like, oh, look at that. Tad's putting the wrong thing. And also,
we got it.
Also, Charlie the Choo Choo, good one to read for all the kids in your life.
Nope.
Buy a copy of that on Amazon for $10 or so, and give it to all your wee lads and ladettes.
Ladettes.
And he says the Wastelands, often considered the best book in the series, and I could see that. I really can. Like, where book 2 and book 3, those two are almost universal, if not entirely universal. I don't think I've ever heard a bad thing about either of these 2 books. Like, and I don't know. For me, I think I would hedge towards book 2 personally, but I can totally see why someone would go the other way and go with book 3.
That's me. I think I do prefer book 3 over book 2.
Yeah,
dude. Eddie not being a crack addict, like, over his addiction and everything like that, is the best Eddie. Like, he is sure of himself. He has moments.
You know the reason that you love it.
Yeah, who doesn't love Oi except for Tad, who just wants to chuck him off a bridge?
No, I didn't. That's taken me out of context. But then he goes on and says, this is Stephen King at his creative height. This book's got everything, talking trains, horny demons, robot bears, and very interesting poetry.
Horny demons.
He says, this is the first book where Roland's Quartet is fully formed. It's probably the book that King's fans think about first when they think back to the series. And yeah, I can kind of say, I think I actually mentioned in our last book club, because there's a point where they're just around a campfire. They're all together. They haven't got to Lud yet. And I'm like, and I think I specifically said almost those words exactly. I'm like, when you tell me Dark Tower, that's exactly the scene that comes to mind. Not that scene in its like exactness, but the fact of them just sitting around the campfire at some point on their journey,
Palaver.
as a team, whether they're palavering, whether they're just like, whatever, just that camaraderie. That's literally what I picture when I think of Dark Tower. So
the thing is that with that, I mean, look at our intro. This isn't our made intro. This was made by Alan, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I made the original.
You put the sound clips together, but which ones did you pick? There's like 4 from Wastelands.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna talk a while. It's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta talk, and it's gonna take a while. Like,
yeah.
That is
because it works for our show.
It
too.
absolutely does, and that's one of the reasons why we're both so drawn to it. You're right, though. Like them conversing and them talking is what
around
I
a
think
campfire.
of.
Like, yeah, that's just like the quintessential Dark Tower to me. Like, if they're if I could like rip an image out of my mind and create a poster out of it to make for the Dark Tower, it would be a scene like that of them around maybe with Flag's shadow in the background with like red eyes.
He's like peeking behind a tree. He's just like.
I could put Mordred in there too to make things really happy.
Have a spider in the tree to represent Mordred. Have a Stonehenge looking circle in the background. Flag over here.
No, you know what I do? Is it'd be them camping, but in the background there's a scarecrow, but it has red eyes.
Oh,
because
that's terrifying.
Yeah, Mick Garris. Still, that's one of the fucking most terrifying things. That one nightmare, I think it's a Stu that has it, where the freaking it's like this half scarecrow, half flag that like gets him and spins him around in the corn. Yeah, that's terrifying shit.
Cody says sitting around we were talking about campfire. He says cooking gunslinger burritos.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And it says it's a book that fully embraces the weird sci-fi and fantasy concepts. The one where King's complete disinterest in sticking to one genre is made the most clear, which is what I love about it too. Like, I feel like at one point King probably thought that this would be a mostly Western, maybe post-apocalyptic, but like, this starts getting the realm where it's like there's like robotic bears and like this. Yeah, this is where it really goes nutty. And it says this book also has a fun little tie-in to a book called. Tie-in book called Charlie the Choo Choo, written under the pseudonym Beryl Evans. There's not a ton of substance to the book. It says it's formatted like a children's book after all, but it's fun bit of world building. It's essentially the real life edition, or it's essentially the real life edition of a creepy book that the characters pick up in the first half of the novel, and its relevance to the story becomes clear as you make your way through the Wastelands. The Wastelands ends with a massive cliffhanger, which frustrated fans at the time. Rubbing more salt in the wound is how King took 6 years before getting back to writing the sequel that would resolve the cliffhanger. You may be tempted to jump straight back into book 4 to see how things shake out, but before you do, he has you do another side tangent here. Bonus material. So as
good lord.
As I was saying earlier when I said it gets better.
Wait, there's more.
Yeah, adding a 1,000-page stand on top of it.
This is the longest book the King's ever written. Is it?
I don't know if it's longer than the stand.
I thought it
was like 900 and something.
Let's go on.
But it says, much like The Stand, it is widely considered essential reading for any true Stephen King fan. Although there's no major direct reference to the Dark Tower series, there are a ton of thematic and world-building similarities. And I don't know, does the turtle not count as a direct Dark Tower tie-in?
I think it is.
Yeah, as I'll say, I think it kind of is. Although the group of friends in the book it's based on doesn't call themselves a quartet like Roland's group does, that is essentially what they are. The villain of it also shares some interesting similarities to a few Dark Tower villains who will pop up down the line. Some other books you might want to consider reading but aren't necessary are The Talisman and Black House, two connected books King co-wrote with Peter Straub. They aren't essential to understanding anything in the Dark Tower series, but they help you make the later books more rewarding experience. I'll understand you'll probably want to dive straight into book 4, getting that resolution to that book 3 cliffhanger, but think of this delay as you're paying respects to the millions of 90s fans who had to wait 6 years for closure. And again, if I could have redone the whole thing, I would have set it up in a way where I was like gone for the weekend when I left you, and I knew you were going to be like finishing book 3, just so you had to wait like 3 or 4 days until you got.
You're such a bastard. I can't believe you would actually do that to someone. That is so messed up. I remember when one of my friends was reading The Dark Tower for the first time. He was borrowing my books, and he's like, "Hey, I'm about to finish book 2. Can I come over and get book 3?" I'm like, "I'm going to give you book 4 at the same time." And he goes, "Why?" I was like, "Don't worry about it."
Well, see, again, just like he said, though, I would only be doing it to you to help tribute all those people in the 90s that had to wait.
So the longest Dark Tower book, the longest Stephen King book is in fact The Stand.
Yeah.
With the uncut version of the edits and everything like that. It is exactly 15 pages longer than it.
Okay.
So, do you know what number 3 is?
Under the Dome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
It's a long one.
1153 for The Stand, 1138 for it, and 1072
Wait,
for
1138?
Yeah.
I like that. THX 1138?
Yeah, 1138. Yeah.
Good old George Lucas reference there. I like that.
Man, I thought the Dark Tower, book 7, I thought that was way longer than I thought. It's only 845 pages. I thought it was
only 845 pages.
Well, the reason why that comes up is because this guy does a top 10 list, and number 4 is Insomnia with 787 pages, and I went, well, how? And then number 10 is Bag of Bones with 529, and I went, well, wait a minute. How long is Dark Tower? Is it really shorter than 529 pages? He's leaving off Dark Tower off of this list.
Oh, what about 1122-63? What was that page count?
When was
I thought
this?
that one was up there.
This was published in 2009.
Okay, yeah, that's
So,
what I figured.
This article was published before 1122-63.
And Baraki agrees with it being a tie-in to the Dark Tower. Yeah, I think that he's incorrect to say that it's not a direct tie-in, because I think the Maturin stuff is enough to be a direct tie-in, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand why he would say it's not a direct tie-in. I mean, we get that the turtle is in the Dark Tower. Like, it's mentioned 3 or 4 times.
It's basically God of the whole thing. So yeah, definitely kind of an interesting one. But okay, so then he finally gets us over to Wizard and Glass. So what do you think so far of his kind of outline for this? Like
I would not send someone to read it while waiting for Wizard and Glass. that right there, sir, that's a crime.
Yeah, you think
that
so?
That is wrong.
Even though it's your favorite book.
Even though, no, my favorite book, it is,
it. Yeah.
Okay. It is my favorite book, but still, that is not the right place to read it. You do not stop someone with that cliffhanger to go read the second longest book the King has ever put out. That is wrong. No. If you're going to read it between 2 and 3, or if you're going to read it between 4 and 5. but
or
do
just
not.
or just read It in the Stand before starting any of this.
Yeah,
Could do that.
That's a good way too.
But I see what he's doing. He's trying to build it in a way to where like he's not, because like ultimately, it's going to be the turtle stuff ends up being important. So I could see why he's doing it this way. But so next, Wizard and Glass, it says this is one of the most divisive books of the series because it dedicates most of its pages to a flashback to Roland's teen years. Readers at the time were frustrated because they waited 6 years only to get the book where the main plot barely moves forward, and then they had to wait another 6 years for book 5. Despite that, the actual story being told in flashback is great and helps to prove Roland is one of the most complex, compelling protagonists that King has ever written. I just imagine if he didn't resolve the Blaine and he just went right to the flashback.
Oh my god! It would not surprise me if King did that, and then the editors went, "No,
Yeah, you're not doing that.
no."
I mean, there's no way you could have, right? Because he has to tell the story to them and stuff. So there's no way to have done that. But I'm just like, can you imagine if like 6 years and then it's literally just nothing but flashbacks, and then like 6 years later in book 5 is when you actually get the Blaine resolution? Like King probably would have been killed.
He gets lynched.
People would have gone after him. Like somebody would have got a van and gone after him on purpose.
Now that is deserved. #Ted is terrible.
I thought of that with Maximum Overdrive. There's a couple vans there.
Yeah.
I'm like, King has every reason to hate vans. He doesn't know it yet, but fast forward a decade or so, and he'll go look back on what he did with Maximum Overdrive, that opening scene with the drawbridge, and there's a van that gets fairly fucked up. Yeah. So
There's quite a few.
yeah, but there's the one van that was there that
Yeah.
was. Yeah, well, I mean the kind of the more minivanish. Like there's also that big van with the AC/DC, but stuff written on it. But it says next he says this book is also ends on a fairly peaceful note. The characters are still on their quest for the Dark Tower, and there's plenty of hard roads ahead for them, but they aren't in any immediate peril as Wizard and Glass dials down. Books 5 through 7 are written in quick succession by King, so I won't be recommending any extra reading materials once we get to them. This makes which I guess that makes sense now. So he didn't want to break those ones up, which is why he's backstacking some of these things. So you're basically prepping people before you dive into those. I kind of get why he's staging the way that he is. Because I think if I were building it out, I don't think I would do that. I think I'd probably break some stuff up between 5, 6, and 7. And he says this makes the break here between books 4 and 5 a natural place to put the series on hold and really dive into those extra King stories. If you still haven't read The Talisman of the Black House, now would be a good time to try those out. But that's not all. So next up, he's got bonus material, Salem's Lot. Totally makes sense with where we're going.
Callahan, yeah.
Insomnia, Little Sisters of Illyria, and Hearts of Atlantis. So basically, again, he's stacking everything that you're going to see through the next 3 books.
Why not Win Through the Keyhole?
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah, but this is where Win Through the Keyhole happens.
Yeah,
but why?
We'll get to it, and I agree with him. Is there anything else I'm missing in the chat here?
Mike said, "Would you like to see my list of top 10 Mesopotamian poetry?" And Carol liked that one.
Oh man! All right, so Salem's Lot is the most important title mentioned in this section, as a certain character from this book is going to have a prominent role in book 5. I wouldn't even just say prominent role. He has a 100 times of a
driving force.
Yeah, I was gonna say he has 100 times bigger role in the Dark Tower series than he did in his own book, because he's not in Salem's Lot, man. When I went and read Salem's Lot, I was like, wait, that's it?
Wait, he's gone?
He's gone? Like he's got to come back, right? And then when he doesn't, I'm like, oh, okay,
all right.
Like he's basically a cameo appearance in Salem's Lot.
Story in book 5, not
just telling the story.
Not him in the Kalas, not him helping with the children or with the fight, or
like his multiple chapters telling a story.
Just Father Callahan, from when he left Salem's Lot story to how he ended up in the Kalas, is more time than he had in Salem's Lot
by like 3 times.
Yeah,
like not even like close, man. Like like basically like what does King probably do? 2 or 3 chapters in a row, or he's telling his story. Like that is like probably 5 times longer than his actual role in Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
But he says it's also got vampires, so it's win-win, which I agree. Yeah. The thing that you learn in Insomnia, meanwhile, are going to come into clutch when you read book 7. Little Sisters.
That's what I'm saying. Why Insomnia doesn't need to be read here. Insomnia.
He's chosen not to break up 5, 6, and 7 though.
7, okay.
Because of how they are written so compressed. He's trying to keep. Again, I wouldn't do that, but that's what he's doing. Yeah. I would not go that route.
Agreed, Alan. Callahan should have a second book just for that.
Yeah, I give me more Callahan.
We've already talked about it. Like, give us just
Give me a Callahan miniseries.
Give me a limited series with him. The highways and byways of America.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But who plays him? That's the question.
Gary Oldman.
Little Sisters of Illyria is a novella written in 1998, most easily found in King's collection Everything's Eventual.
Yeah,
it's another flashback story, but its events take place after the big flashback of Wizard and Glass. You don't technically need to read this book to understand everything afterwards, but it certainly helps. And while you've got that collection in your hands, you should also read the titular story Everything's Eventual in the collection as well, because that also features a connection to the Dark Tower universe, and it's a good story too. So, and then he says one of the characters in Hearts of Atlantis, publishing by King in 1999, will also turn out to be an important one down the line. And he says some other books I strongly recommend reading at this point that aren't quite vital are Desperation and The Regulators. These are twin novels that were published simultaneously, the former under King's name and the latter under King's pseudonym Richard Bachman. These books have minor connections to the main series. Also, King's interest in twins is going to be very important as we enter book 5. So, which, yes, very, very true. And then he gets into this last step of the main series, Wolves of the Kala, Songs of Susanna, and the Dark Tower. He says, more than any of the first 4, these final 3 books tend to blend together a little. In particular, Songs of Susanna and the Dark Tower often feel like one giant book split into 2, and that's why I don't recommend any more breaks in between. After the big flashbacks of book 4, you're likely anxious to dive back into the main plot, and that's exactly what these books do. Wolves of the Kala spends its pages building back up momentum established before Wizard and Glass, and by the time you reach the Kala's final chapters, the series is charging full speed ahead. And that's absolutely true. And it doesn't let go until pretty much till people start to die. Yeah. That's when the momentum finally slows.
Yeah.
In Blue Heaven, as a matter of fact.
Wasn't it Blue Haven?
Or Blue Haven, yeah. Do they play the Blue Heaven song, though?
Yeah.
Is that what I'm thinking? The two books contain some of the boldest writing choices of any mainstream author has ever made, and I can guarantee you that you'll like them all. And I don't know if I'd guarantee that. I think there's still some people that bitch about him showing up in the series. Me, I fucking adore it. I think it's one of my favorite parts of the series, but I know there's some people that constantly hound on that. There's a particular decision in Book 6 that often described as the series jumping the shark, which is King showing up.
Yeah.
But which I'll describe as the thing that elevates the series into its full-on masterpiece, which is where I agree. He says, but your mileage may vary. He says, my only big piece of advice to be wary of the idea that there was some sort of quality dip in these final 3. You see, it was written, it was after book 4 that Stephen King was nearly killed after a car ran him over, and this was part of what inspired him to jump back into the series and finish it with a surprising speed. Because he wrote these last 3 installments so quickly, that led to worries that the final books would be rushed, and I genuinely think that this expectation affected the way that the final 3 books were initially perceived, which is actually an interesting thought process. Like, the people basically saw he wrote them so fast, like, oh my god, it's all going to feel rushed, and then that almost like made them see it as rushed, even though I don't think they actually feel rushed to me.
Yeah.
You know, so, but as time goes by and cooler heads have prevailed, people seem to have grown kinder to the Dark Tower conclusion. And then he has The Wind Through the Keyhole here at the very end, which is where I recommend it as well. He says, but with the Dark Tower was the Dark Tower the conclusion? Because in 2012, King wrote an 8th installment to the series, The Wind Through the Keyhole. Despite being written last, this book takes place during the time skip between Wizard and Glass and Wolves of the Kala. It's a light and breezy novel designed to help us hang out with these characters one last time, even though we know where their stories lead. In the initial draft of this article, I suggested reading this before Wolves of the Kala. My reasoning was that the book helped make the time jump feel a little less jarring the first time reading. It gives the reader some extra time to hang out with these characters before book 5 starts to sprint toward the end of everyone's character arcs. He says, but in the end, I figured your best choice might be to finish the 7th book first and sit with that ending for a while, and then whenever you feel yourself missing Roland and his quartet, you pick up this novel for fun, nostalgic, small-scale adventure. It's a perfect beach read material, one that works so well precisely because we know exactly what happens to these characters from there. Neither option is wrong, however, as reading it for the first time won't spoil... reading it for the first time doesn't spoil the final 3 books. And again, I've always loved it that way. I think it's maybe just because that's the way that King published it, but I've always loved Went Through the Keyhole as, like he mentions, it feels like almost you jump into a time machine and you have a small bit of time with these lost friends now.
Sure.
You know, so I like it that way too. And also to me, like, Wizard and Glass is kind of a huge flashback. I just think it's going to kill your momentum a lot to then read another book of flashbacks before getting into the story again.
Sure, I mean...
So that's always been my view, too.
That I could see your argument, except for the fact that, you know, we're only interrupting it for 4 other stories. So if we're gonna interrupt it, I mean, let's
I feel
interrupt
like
it proper.
It feels like a coda to me. Like I know it doesn't take place after the fact, but I always feel like with King Publishing, it's just kind of maybe it's because that's how I experienced it as a reader. You know, like by the time I read it, like Roland, I understood where he was at. All the other characters had died except for Susanna. It just felt like a cool thing to be able to dive in, and suddenly it's like, oh, I'm back earlier in the series where I can just enjoy. These people aren't dead. Oi's not depressed. Whatever. There's not all this horrible shit that had happened. It was kind of cool to just, I don't know. It's like some of those movies where like some horrible shit happens, but then there's like this little flashback scene that like shows you
get
an
them all
earlier
together,
time,
and
it's
they're
just,
all happy,
and it's just kind of it gives you kind of a relief a little bit to see that scene. That's the way I've always felt with book 8. So I kind of agree keeping it at the end, but you can do it either way.
I'm fine with keeping it at the end if you're talking, the 8 books. But if you're going to be throwing in everything Dark Tower related, and you're going to throw Insomnia and Salem's Lot and Eye of the Sisters of Elysia and Hearts and Atlantis before, I'm sorry, Hearts and Atlantis should not be before book 5. Hearts and Atlantis and everything eventual Dink and Ted's story should not be before.
Again, I agree with you ultimately in terms of like. I would probably break up 5, 6, and 7. I would have no qualms with that. I kind of get where he's coming from a little bit, why he didn't, but I would probably not be as like whatever. I would probably be okay with like splitting some of those up with some of these extra caveats. But again, this is a whole can of worms. There's everyone and their dog seems to have an opinion on the best reading, extended reading, whatever. Like I said, I think Chris from Australia actually has one. I believe I saw something on Twitter recently where somebody posted something and then somebody tagged Chris in it, like asking his opinion. And he's like, well, since that was taken from my blog, I totally agree with what it says. Because kind of one of those it's one of my favorite Twitter genres is when people don't know who they're tweeting when they ask a question about something.
There was one where a guy was arguing that, this is what the director was meaning, and the director commented and was like, no, that's absolutely not what was meant. And he's like, well, how would you know? He's like, well, I directed it.
Yeah.
Or I wrote it. There's several ones like that. It's just like, shut up. Like, you don't know. Like,
yeah, indeed. Anything I missed in the chat?
Oh, yeah, lots to talk about.
Some Gary Oldman love. I love that.
So many people are saying that he should. And then Cody says, imagine how much budget they could trim by hiring Gary Oldman to play all the Dark Tower characters in the movie.
Yeah.
And I said, including the horses, lamps, robots, buildings.
Yeah.
I thought, Carol says about Stephen King, I love him writing himself in. It was great. Everyone's a critic when it comes to other people's effort or work.
Yeah.
Dark Tower starring Gary Oldman as Roland and Eddie and Susanna and Jake and Oi and Callahan and Cullum. That was from Cody, and then I added and Flag. Cody then says, world's shortest credits, start credit, Gary Oldman. Everyone, end credits.
No, I would do the whole crawl, every character.
Just Roland, Gary Oldman.
Yeah,
Eddie,
exactly.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Flag, Gary Oldman.
Yeah. Aunt Talitha, Gary Oldman.
Rhea of the Coos,
he is
Gary Oldman.
He's everyone. Shardik, Gary Oldman.
Shardik's keeper, the robot bat, Gary Oldman.
Yeah, indeed. And he says this list may make reading the series sound like an exhaustive task, but trust me, it isn't. Each additional Stephen King novel won't feel like homework assignment, like a homework assignment, but like another entertaining, self-contained story that also contributes to the larger narrative. Although you don't have to read these other books to enjoy the series, it's only with those in mind that you can fully appreciate how much of a mad genius Stephen King really is. And I think I've actually... There was somebody that I talked to, I don't remember if it was in context of this show or if it was like somebody in the real world I discovered, but they had read the Dark Tower series and we were talking about some stuff and I mentioned the super flu stuff and they're like, what do you mean super flu? I'm like, have you not read The Stand? They're like, no. I'm like,
oh my God.
I had to like brace myself. I'm like, hold up. You have not read The Stand. So again, it's one of those things like that whole geek out moment for me at the beginning of book 4 meant nothing to this person because they hadn't read The Stand. They had no familiarity with it. So that's definitely fun though. It's and like I said, I know it's Cam Warren's. Everyone's going to disagree. Everyone has their own view on it. If you Googled it, I'm sure there's at least 5 or 6 different versions where people tell you the best things to like ways to read the extended Dark Tower thing or whatever. But usually I don't see anyone ever do that the first time through though. Usually people read the series and it's like solo, and then later on it's like someone that wants to reread the series, but then they decide they want to do it the extended way and they want to like fill in the gaps and stuff, and that's when they start doing like they read The Stand, they
Yeah.
read It, they read, Talisman, they read like all these different things. So usually I don't even know if I'd say I don't know if I'd recommend it for a first time reader. But if they're a first time to King though, and they were into it, just give them the fire hose and let them drink from the fire hose and just, yeah. I kind of
Throw them into the deep end right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, here you need to learn how to swim. Huh.
that's the best way to do it, right?
Yeah. Cody's still going off about Gary Oldman, sound guy, lighting guy, directed by.
I mean, yeah, you're never gonna hear any arguments from me, man.
How we know how you feel.
Yeah, he's he is probably my all-time favorite actor. So, yes.
Oh, I missed this one. Baraki says shrugs. I am a purist, I guess. Read them in the same order they were published, including all the peripherals. That's what you're doing currently with all of King's work, right? Just kind of just
no, I'm not
working your way
doing.
through?
No, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing it in order though.
Oh, you're not. Oh, that's right. You stopped that.
Yeah, I'm bouncing around. Yeah,
It was too much.
So,
Just too much.
yeah, so I'm bouncing around. I'm just about finished. I got like about an hour left of The Stand
What did you
for
say
my
you're gonna
annual
do
reread.
next?
I don't know yet.
Well, I do
Got-
have to say, this is a good spot for me to announce it. Is I did finish Sleeping Beauties Thursday,
Oh yeah.
so that needs to be checked off on my my list.
All right.
My percentage,
Yeah.
raise that up just a little bit more. Another one. I do want to say there was one really cool thing at for Sleeping Beauties at the end. They had like an interview with Owen and Stephen King.
Yeah.
They left the interviewers part out, and so it's just them answering questions. And it was pretty cool to hear them both talk about like the experience of writing together as father and son. And King talks about how he's collaborated with other people as well. But Owen, it was great to hear that. But I do want to shout out Stephen King finally referenced my favorite Dean Koontz book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he referenced Watchers in Sleeping Beauties, and I was like, hell's yes. That's my book. I love that book.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. You want to check the chat?
Yeah.
Let's go on over to the next article. You
Still just Gary Oldman.
Oh,
Alan's
okay.
going off about him making an independent film of Callahan Across America found footage. Baraki says he'd watch it.
Yeah.
I mean,
That'd work for me. All right. So jumping over to the next one here, and this is an interesting one. Best acting performances in Stephen King movies.
oh, okay.
So, any predictions? And I will say this picture I pulled from the internet. This is not from the article, so it gives you no hints. I just Googled like Stephen King adaptations or something and found this picture. So, not necessarily. Yeah. So, any predictions here? I will give you a hint. There's 8. She's got 8. This is by Anna Dorrell from MovieWebs on June 23rd, 2022.
Michael Clark Duncan in Green Mile. Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Kathy Bates in Misery. And
Wait, say it one more time. Kathy Bates. What was the one before that you
Jack
said?
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson. Okay.
And Michael Clark Duncan in Green Mile.
Okay.
And then
Baraki says Tom Hanks in The Green Mile.
Tom Hanks is great, but I mean, Michael Clark Duncan overshadows everyone, figuratively and literally, in that movie. What was the other one I had? Shawshank Redemption. Tim Robbins.
Tim Robbins. All
Tim
right.
Robbins. I think that if those 4 are left off this list, jettison it into space.
Well, let's go ahead and dive in and see what Peter thinks. See if Peter's disappointed or not. He says, one major trademark of King's beloved work is undoubtedly his cast of original characters, inspired by his transient childhood, which he spent moving across the country before settling in his beloved Maine. These characters are unique as his outlandish stories themselves. Many of the on-screen adaptations of his works are well known for some character portrayals that have left the cultural impact on the world of horror. Here are some of the best acting performances in Stephen King movies, ranked 1 through 8.
Mike says Sissy Spacek in Carrie.
Okay. Yeah.
That's his prediction.
Yeah. Carol also asks, somehow I missed the info/announcement about the new show. Can you
Yes.
recap at the end? I can just pause now, even because I'll probably forget by the end of the show, and I doubt Peter will remember as well.
Yeah.
I know our memories. So we don't have any solid, we don't have a title or a launch date yet, but basically we're going to be starting a new show. I've honestly been wanting to do it for a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
We just haven't been able to figure out how schedules would work with
Because
it.
we did not want to interrupt Dark Tower Palaver.
Dark Tower Palaver.
It is still going to be every 2 weeks, bi-weekly,
Yeah.
new episodes with the hangouts, with the little YouTube exclusives and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
all that stuff. We wanted to make sure that we didn't disrupt that because Tad's been talking about it, And I mean,
It's
Palaver with Tad was a little bit of an enterprise for you to see.
Kind of an attempt at it, but it's tough to do a solo podcast. It's all I'm saying.
It came up. I can't remember if it was your idea or my idea, but it was, well, shit. Why don't we just record 2 episodes at once and do a new show? One time a month will be the new show. One time a month will be Dark Tower Palaver.
Yeah.
And man, ever since that idea sparked, it was earlier this year, January, February, when we had that.
It was early
when we had that idea. It just, ever since then, things have been rolling.
Yeah,
we've had it, and then in June we tested it, the 2 episodes to see. We really were worried. We were like, God, we were going to be so like loopy at the end of it, doing 2 different things, and everything like that.
Not that we haven't recorded 5-hour Dark Tower episodes.
We have, but it was 1 episode. It wasn't
Yeah.
switching gears from a roundtable to a book club, which is Tad alluded to earlier. We are going to be doing that going forward when we do switch to the new format. Is that it will be a roundtable and a book club every month.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks, I should say, because sometimes there are 3 and everything like that. So that's where.
Yep. So definitely join us in a fortnight. I do believe we might have a much better idea of an exact date as well as a title. We just got to get some things locked down before that is all announced.
Yeah, because if we say something now, someone's going to go steal our stuff, and that's just not cool. So before we dive into this, we have a lot of predictions in the chat. Baraki says Corey Feldman and Stand By Me. Mark says River Phoenix. Cody says Morgan Freeman and Shawshank. Why do they call you Red? I'm Irish. Cody says. Baraki also says Tim Curry. So I honestly forgot about
Mr. Curry.
Mr. Curry. That's a good one. Cody says the dog in Cujo.
Yeah.
That's Beethoven, damn it.
Mr. Jingles.
I wonder what his name is. Don't know.
Too soon.
I wonder what that dog's name was.
Cody also has a good one. Rose the Hat and Dr. Sleep.
Oh.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this could probably be a top 20 list, but this is only a top 8. So I do think some of you guys might be disappointed. I'll only say that because it's easy to say that without anyone knowing who I'm talking about, but knowing what this list is, some of y'all are going to be a little disappointed. The first one, Bill Skarsgård is Pennywise at number 8.
Oh, yeah.
So from It 2017 is where he credits him. Obviously, we know he's also in It Chapter 2. It says, as Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård delivers a more modern interpretation of the homicidal clown in It. Almost unrecognizable under this caked-on white makeup, the actor brought a creepy, cross-eyed stare into the role, along with an off-kilter voice, sure to make an appearance in your nightmares. Pennywise saw somewhat of a resurgence as a horror movie icon with this stunning portrayal, inspiring Halloween costumes and haunted houses across the nation, and an escape room in Las Vegas later this year.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to make a journey.
Oh, we're going to have
Vegas.
to go down to Vegas and go through it and record. Yeah.
As well as Estes Park when we go to the Stanley as well.
No.
Do a live show from room 217.
That's you and me on Skype in the comfort of my own home. Holding the fort down and everything.
No, sir.
Tad, if something happens to you, one of us has to be able to continue the show.
Not only are we going to be doing a show live from the Stanley, but I'll bring in a Ouija board and we'll see if we can summon any spirits.
Ouija boards don't bother me. That's Hayden.
And so he goes on here, says it was so effective that Skarsgård drew upon his experiences as Pennywise to continue to freak out his co-stars on the set of The Devil all the time, which I haven't heard those stories, but I'm wondering what that might be about. But yeah, that's a good one. This what do you so you agree that Billy Boy deserves to be on there?
Oh yeah.
Yes, and I agree with some of you guys that are throwing some out here, but unfortunately, not all of them are right.
Yeah.
Even though I probably agree with you guys over the list here that Anna came up with. So next up, she's got Fred Gwynne as Judd Crandall in Pet Sematary, 1989. Says the original adaptation of Pet Sematary creates an air of scares close to home. The Creed family gets more than they bargained for when the father Lewis meddles with an ancient burial ground with resurrection powers. Fred Gwynne brings the down-home feeling and a lot of Maine ayahs, which is exactly right, to his portrayal of Judd Crandall, the well-meaning neighbor to the Creeds. The life lessons that Judd attempts to impart on Lewis as the story progresses are ultimately lost on him, but his faithful devotion to what is best for the troubled family stands out the most. His unfortunate demise at the hands of the young Gage, wielding his father's scalpel, broke moviegoers' hearts.
Oh, yeah.
And it, made Peter all squeamish.
Oh,
And see, I think what it is it's not because it's not just a slice of the Achilles; it's that it saws the Achilles.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
That's what makes it so much worse.
He performed surgery right there on the stairs.
Oh man, no, it's the bedroom, not stairs.
Oh, I thought he was on the stairs.
No, remember he's in the bedroom and the cat is like gets there and he looks up at him and then Gage comes out from under the bed and gets the old Achilles tendon.
Do you still have the GIF?
Oh, I do. I almost put it here, man. I almost did. But again, Tad is not terrible, so I held off. But that GIF is still in my back pocket.
You thought about it.
Oh, indeed. I thought about it. Let's
Cody
see.
asked if tangents were a random thing in here or they'd be random Dark Tower tangents, the new podcast. I said, oh, yeah, tangents are not exclusive to Dark Tower Palaver.
Yeah, tangents are. I mean, that's the way our whole friendship has been when it comes to conversation.
Literally,
like, there's times that we'll stop in the middle of a conversation and go,
How did we get
here? And then we like backtrack it and be like, okay, we went from like this to this to this to this, and we started.
Who
here
had the best French fries? To who Gary Oldman should play next? To who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? To no. They should make this the next video game. And, just all that different stuff.
Definitely some randomness. All right, so what do you think of Judd here, Fred Gwynn?
Judd's good, but I thought you said 8.
Yeah, it's 8.
This is number 7.
I know, because it's the second one. Started at 8, went up to 7.
Right. Bill Skarsgård was number 8. My bad.
Yes. Again, knowing some of the stuff you guys have all thrown out that's really good that may not be on here, I do think this may be one that people will come back on and wonder why he was on this list. Next up, Finn Wolfhard as Richie Tozer from It 2017.
Okay.
And who doesn't love that clown room? See, if I could make the office here look like that clown room, that would be amazing. Imagine
I would be okay. My wife would never watch.
All right, so Finn Wolfhard says, after charming audiences with his breakout roles in Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard went back to the 1980s again for the 2017 adaptation of It. As Richie Tozer, the bespectacled loudmouth of the Losers Club, Wolfhard is truly in his element. It's an ensemble cast of kid characters. It's easy to fall in the background, but not with one of the most beloved characters in the film, swearing up a storm as he defends his friends and battles otherworldly evil. Richie is absolutely the rough and tumble comic relief in It, especially alongside Eddie Kasprick. A prequel series for King's epic story titled Welcome to Derry is in the works, with executive producer Andy Muschietti, director of the first 2-part episodes. I don't know why they're throwing that in, but either way. What do you think of Finn here?
Yeah.
He stole the show, man.
Yeah.
Of all the kids. Eddie's close, though. Eddie and
but
Richie
him and Eddie
is,
together are just
it's, yeah.
chef's kiss.
Yeah. That and the creepy librarian and the staring in the background. That's also one of the best roles in the movie. And not in focus. That's what makes it so good. Is that you just tell she's looking at him and smiling with a big menacing grin. But you just,
Yeah.
really good. Love it. I've over the last couple weeks, I've been thinking I really need to watch those. Like, I'm kind of getting spooky season feel a little bit, so I think I might dive into those because I haven't watched either of them since 2019.
Really?
Like, I rewatched the first one and prep to go to the theaters to see the second one. That's the last time I watched either of them. So
really,
I think it'd be good to rewatch. Yeah. Let's see. Next up, let's go ahead and dive into the next one. Number 5 is Sissy Spacek.
Hey, there she is.
As Carrie White, which was predicted. I don't remember who it was. There was way too many predictions here.
I know, we got a lot of them.
Somebody did predict her, though. So Sissy Spacek starred as the titular Carrie in 1976 film.
Mike did.
Bringing a virginal air of innocence to the role before the bullying she receives reaches a breaking point. Spacek, much like her character, described herself as a shy individual, calling the opening shower scene terrifying in a New York Post interview. It's impressive how quickly Carrie goes from an unassuming high school girl to a harbinger of hell on earth, which is exactly why Spacek deserves a spot on this list. Her wide-eye stare and her deer-in-the-headlight style gaze, it's an image that captures the shock that she experiences as the story progresses. As the first to play this role, Spacek paved the way for future female horror performances inspired by the ferocity of her portrayal. Yeah, and she did incredible, obviously. Carrie's a wonderful movie, and Sissy Spacek is a large part of why. Now, if we could just take Sissy Spacek, and I'm not saying that the lady Piper or whatever that played the mom did bad, but if you could have taken Julianne Moore as the mom as the mom for Sissy Spacek, that would be like the ultimate, like time machine casting. You know, that's what I would love, because Julianne Moore is a national treasure.
Cody asked how you felt about Chloe in the new.
I liked her. I thought she did a good job. It's just Sissy Spacek's just really hard to beat.
Trump that.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. But I actually really enjoyed her in the newer one. I haven't watched that one since it came out, but I own it.
You know who's probably going to be on those lists and doesn't deserve to be is the new flag, the other Skarsgård.
Any flag deserves
No.
all the awards, sir.
No.
All right. So next up at number 4 is Jack Torrance.
There he is.
Jack Nicholson is Jack Torrance in The Shining. And this is one where I kind of so especially the way he outlines it here, I'm like, did you watch the same movie I did? He says Jack Nicholson captures the impact of insanity in his performance as Jack Torrance in The Shining. Hold on, let me pause here and say, I'm not saying that Jack did a bad job. I'm just saying that some of the stuff he says here, I'm like, I think he watched a different movie than me. Okay. He says, spurred on by months of isolation at the Overlook and the influence of ghosts on his already fragile psyche, Jack's turn is as frightening as it is realistic. Perhaps Nicholson took what he learned from his role to build his version of the Joker in the 1989 Batman. In The Shining, the audience watches in horror alongside Wendy and Danny as a loving and family-minded father slowly turns into a homicidal monster with a sickening smile. When was he ever a family-loving? He was a psycho from day one.
Look at this picture. This is one of the first scenes that he's a psycho.
Exactly.
Even Mike says in the chat, "Love that grin."
Yeah, like Jack Nicholson cannot play a normal person,
No.
and that's not a bad thing. Like I just recently I rewatched A Few Good Men, and it's like that's a different kind of psycho, but
He's psycho.
Yeah, you gotta love him for it. It's he's like. I think he's like 9 minutes in that movie, but it's like so impactful that everyone remembers every second of it. The infamous axe that Jack swung into the bathroom door was recently auctioned for $175,000, which we
talked
actually
about
covered.
that.
So yeah, Jack there at number 4. The way he makes it sound, it's almost like Kubrick actually did what King did in the book,
which is why King hates the movies because they didn't.
They didn't. Like Jack Nicholson's kind of crazy from the start.
King talks about it. It's like
Yeah. All right. So number 3, a happy little guy, Tim Curry as Pennywise.
Yeah.
In It 1990, Tim Curry's creepy and campy portrayal of Pennywise helped to set the standard for horror movie villains. In the 1990 adaptation of It, a 2-part made-for-TV miniseries, Curry shines as the story's otherworldly antagonist. While he has a laundry list of memorable roles, including Dr. Frank N. Furter in Rocky Horror Picture Show, Pennywise is undoubtedly one of the most iconic. Yeah, that's a hard one. What's his most iconic? But it's
it's Pennywise.
I don't know, man. Rocky Horror is
it's Pennywise.
Rocky Horror is pretty.
Dude, we've
iconic,
already talked
man.
about the influx of terror-filled, induced freakouts by people because of clowns, because of Tim Curry. A generation was scarred.
No, I know
for clowns by Tim Curry.
I know, but I'm just saying that Rocky Horror is pretty iconic. That's a tough one to compare there. And he says this is due to Curry's malleable acting abilities as he maintains his trademark sense of humor and his mirth here amongst the murders that Pennywise commits. As he stays true to his classic clown exterior, he brings with him a flurry of balloons and gag jokes in between the mayhem, delivering some quotable lines with a mouthful of rotting teeth. His character might just see you in your dreams. So, I mean, literally, I've said it multiple times on this show before. Literally, the only redeeming quality of that original series is Tim Curry.
It is.
The rest of it's very forgettable, very of its time, I guess. It doesn't age very well, except for Tim Curry. I think he's the reason that it still has staying power today.
Yeah.
So, not to like shit on anyone then, because I don't even think like whatever. It's just it was made in 1990. It was probably
for
being developed.
television.
It was being developed in 1989, most likely, and it's just one of those things. Like it feels very of its time, and I don't think it's aged very well. A lot of shit from that era hasn't. The late 80s and early 90s, like none of that shit ages very well usually, but his performance stands out.
Mark has a point. He says best performance and most iconic or beloved are 2 different lists.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but he just mentioned both Rocky Horror Picture Show and Pennywise, including a laundry list of memorable roles. But yeah, so we got that one. Another one that might have some people mixed potentially.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I got to stop this in the chat. Carol, Mr. Curry is not dead.
No.
He's not dead. He's just retired after suffering a stroke, but he did not pass away.
In fact, one of my favorite things on Twitter recently is he like scours Twitter for people that mention him.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of people that are just like, oh, I wonder what Tim Curry's doing in heaven. He's like, I'm not dead, you idiot. And
yeah.
He'll like respond to people because he was pretty bad. His health.
Yeah, it was really
pretty
bad.
I think
no, he is not.
Yeah, no, it's I every once in a while I follow him on Twitter. Every once in a while I'll see one where he's like yelling at someone for saying he's dead. I'm yeah. And he's actually regained quite a bit of his function too.
It's great.
He actually was here in Salt Lake pre-COVID for one of our
You're welcome, Carol. Yeah, I don't want you thinking that he's gone.
Yeah, we have like a Salt Lake Comic Con, and he actually showed up for that. I was shocked because I was like, figured after because he was in bad, he couldn't even talk or anything.
It was bad
when it happened.
Yeah.
So, but he has regained his speech. He can now do conventions and stuff. So, luckily he not only recovered, but it seems like he's recovered most well. So, let's see. Anything else we missed in the chat? You're kind of keeping up.
Yeah.
Jump to the next one, though. Number 2, John Franklin is Isaac Kroner in Children of the Corn, 1984.
Oh, shit, I forgot about Children of the Corn. Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah.
But
he says the original Children of the Corn is an atmospheric salute to the mysteries within the Middle America among the ever-growing cornfields, which I will say, I know you've gone on record that like the bayou and like the swampy lands of the, Louisiana, some of your most terrifying things. For me, it's the corn, man. That freaking just nothing anywhere. There's no mountains. It's all disorienting, and there's corn everywhere. I've seen enough horror things. Corn is not a good thing. There's always raptors, or there's there's always raptors, monsters, werewolves, killers.
When was there ever raptors in the corn?
Jeepers creepers. Like there's always some creature in the corn.
When was there ever
always
raptors in the corn?
Always, and just never trust it. Like corn is an evil thing. I love eating corn, but cornfields freak me out. And then also you get the silos that people fall in and they suffocate.
Did you know that they made a machine that prevents that now?
Oh yeah,
it detects.
What was it? Was it Quiet Place where somebody fell into one of those?
Oh, is it Quiet Place?
One of the kids is up there and falls through, I think, and then starts to like sink into it and stuff. I think it was A Quiet Place. But yeah, it's all terrifying to me.
I'm telling you, you're crazy. There's never any raptors in corn. That's just.
I don't know.
There's never been a scene with raptors in corn.
Then it goes, among the overgrown cornfields, John Franklin's performance as a puny preacher, Isaac Kroner, controls much more than just his congregation of creepy kids. With an ancient, angry glare containing in a young face and a small frame, Franklin breathes new life into the mastermind behind the madness. Now, here's the thing that shocked me, and I didn't know this. He starred as Isaac at age 23.
That's a 23-year-old?
Yeah, and his growth hormone deficiency assisted in his believability to play the character. Yeah, that's a 23-year-old.
Wow.
Isaac Spitfire's sermons fuel the cult's inner workings as he leads his devoted followers to worship. He Who Walks Behind the Rose inspired several sequels. It's no wonder that Children of the Corn is known as one of the best 80s horror films. So, yeah, that shocked me. But let's see. Anything else?
Baraki's in West Jordan, down the street from us in Utah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Baraki also says Raptors of the Corn is the working title for Jurassic Park 8.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And then
no, hold on, Alan.
Jesus fucking Christ.
For anyone who doesn't know, in Jurassic Park 3, there's a scene where Alan Grant falls asleep on the plane and he wakes up to a raptor saying his name. Tad hates that scene so much, so I always have to bring it up.
Yeah, it's horrible. But drum roll for number 1, and there shouldn't be any surprises here. Although, again, I know you guys have all mentioned a lot of great people, and there's some that you obviously don't know here, but there's literally no debate. Like, this is going to be number 1 no matter what. And it is Mrs. Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
In Misery, 1990. Kathy Bates' portrayal of the crazed superfan Annie Wilkes is absolutely one of the best performances in a Stephen King adaptation. Annie gushes with hospitality when her favorite author, Paul Sheldon, by the late now James Caan, seemingly falls into her lap after a car accident that leads to him requiring one-on-one care. She is sickeningly sweet until she isn't, which is exactly what makes her character work. The infamous ankle cobbling scene, it's hobbling, scene definitely puts this performance on the map, making the audience cringe. See, I could have used both gifts in this episode. Let me just take some credit here. I didn't. But I could have used both of those gifts, and I do still have both of them in my back pocket, so they're not gone forever.
You're just going to randomly send it to me through text, aren't you?
Maybe. Makes audiences cringes and cementing Misery as one of the most memorable Stephen King movies. A Film School Rejects article rightfully called Bates' portrayal the face of toxic fandom. Which is true. It was definitely ahead of its time in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like if there's any one that could be made now, if it didn't exist before, because I would never want to remake it, it would be this one. Because toxic fandom, literally, it's like they predicted this 30 years ago in Misery in 1990. So, yeah, Kathy's amazing. And also, if nothing else, if there's anybody that wanted to debate it, Kathy's the only one that's won an Oscar. in a Stephen King
This
role.
is true.
So that's why in my mind it's like I get like art's subjective and stuff, but I think that like objectively I think she's probably the absolute best performance in any King work, if nothing else because she actually got the old what's his name, little gold dude,
The Oscar.
So so that's that. And what do you think of the list overall? You disappointed by the lack of?
I can't believe they left Michael Clark Duncan off.
Yeah,
Like,
I was
he is
actually
so
I was
good.
kind of surprised that all of Darabont was off the list.
Not a single Darabont.
No Mrs. Carmody. I was kind of hoping for her maybe. She's great because she gets your blood boiling. Yeah, there's a few people in Green Mile. Shawshank has a couple, but yeah, definitely a surprise. Like I said, I think this could easily be a top 20 list without even breaking a sweat. So making a top 8, I got to give Anna credit because I don't know how she did it because I would not have been able to do even a top 10 would have been really hard. But so that is that. Now we have what we already mentioned in the chat a little earlier is theatrical release of Stephen King pick Salem's Lot moves from post Labor Day to spring 2023. And then there's also a little bit more in the headline there, but it doesn't really matter. And this is by Anthony D. Alessandro from Deadline on July 11th, 2020.
We've covered stuff from Anthony before.
Yes, indeed. He says the start of the fall box office just got bleaker as Warner Brothers is moving New Line adaptation of Stephen King's vampire novel Salem's Lot from September 9th to April 21st, 2023.
Man.
He says, I hear the move is due to COVID-related delays in the post-production realm. The Gary Dauberman directed picture also had a handful of days of additional photography 6 weeks ago. So they did some reshoots, which is a normal thing. I know some fandoms have freaked out about reshoots, but it's a normal thing.
Yeah.
Get into editing and suddenly you realize, like, oh shit, man, there's something we missed. Like we need this coverage on this scene and we just don't have it. So
Yeah.
you do reshoots. The post Labor Day weekend is a rich one for Warner Brothers / New Line, created for horror movie fairs, beginning with Stephen King's It in 2017, which debuted to the month's all-time record of $123 million. Warner continued to tap that weekend in 2018 with The Nun, which drew the best opening for any Conjuring franchise film with $53 million, and again in 2019 with It Chapter 2 that debuted with $91 million. So ultimately, what all that spells out is that weekend that Salem's Lot was coming out was a fucking gold mine for horror movies.
Yeah.
So it's gonna suck to lose that.
Carol just said in the chat, I was looking forward to seeing that in September and did a frowny emoji.
Yeah, me too. I was bummed, but at the same time, I was also like slightly relieved because I was starting to get really worried the fact that we hadn't seen any trailer yet. Because I'm like, are they just gonna let this fucking
Dude, you
slip
were
out
saying
here
that.
without any marketing? Because
Yeah.
then it's just gonna die a slow death because nobody will know.
Bad marketing equals bad.
Yeah, people don't.
turnout.
Yeah, people don't know it's there, so they don't know to go see it. So
Yeah.
it's just like I almost think it would have been worse to keep it in September, being the fact that we're in the middle of July and there's been no trailer yet.
Or do you
So,
think that they purposely didn't put anything out because they knew they were going to postpone it?
possibly?
I think they have a little forethought into that, where they're
I don't
like,
know.
"Man, we're struggling. Don't put anything out because we might."
The windows between trailers and releases are getting so much shorter now.
Yeah.
I mean, Thor was only a couple months from when
Yeah.
the movie came out, from when the first trailer came out. There's no Black Panther trailer that's coming out later. So it just seems like studios are getting less when it comes to marketing for some reason. It says for those exhibitors worried if they'll be able to. If there'll be any product to backfill on September 9th, Disney quietly took care of that on Friday when they moved the new Regency horror movie Barbarian, which coincidentally stars It actor Bill Skarsgård, from August 31st to post Labor Day frame. So now that's coming out about the time that Salem's Lot would
dude,
come out.
that's going to be good because that trailer we saw that with Black Phone.
Black Phone, that was
dude,
really good.
that trailer looked fucking really intense.
Yeah, and then it recaps here. The film follows a young woman who arrives to a Detroit rental home. She discovers the house has been double booked and a strange man is already staying there. Against her better judgment, she decides to spend the evening, but soon discovers that there's a lot more to fear than just unexpected house guests. Not to mention that it's Bill Skarsgård. That alone should be enough horror to
he
get you by.
is scary enough.
And it says, however, Barbarian isn't likely to have the same kind of heat that Stephen King film would have at the box office. Warner recently shifted all their DC fairs recently in the calendar due to COVID-related delays as well. Specifically, there is a backlog of visual effects houses as several movies coming down the pike. This is a real thing. Sources are telling me because of all the backlog movies, the motion picture business is basically facing its own supply chain issues.
Oh,
so
geez.
basically, there's these outsourced houses that do special effects and
Yeah.
stuff. They're backlogged and like some of them are shorthanded and stuff. Like, so it's just that's probably what's affecting Salem's Lot. So
Jeez, I never thought about that. Like,
Yeah.
like that because they do outsource. We know that because like at the end of it, it's always like special effects, and then it lists people and what company they work for and everything like that. I never thought about it being impacted by COVID and everything.
Yeah.
This here, 2 years removed from the start of the pandemic.
yeah,
It's starting to catch up. Like they had stuff that was ready to go and stuff like that, but then they also had stuff that got delayed. And with the restrictions being lifted, well, I mean, we've seen it with Marvel, 3 movies this year. Well, if you're going to do 3 movies, that's 3 big movies that
a
need.
lot, yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, I got a feeling that Disney's over here going, "Hey, how much to put us at the top of the queue?"
yeah.
And then movies like Salem's Lot or DC's movies or anyone else's movies may get bumped a little bit down.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Sorry, sir, you're gonna have to wait." And it's like,
See,
"But I was here first."
The moral of the story: just do practical effects
It's
instead of computer effects. For a vampire movie, that should have been easy, but whatever.
might not be depending on what the shot is. You
Yeah,
don't know.
Just hire Tom Savini, and you'll get
Jesus.
some great.
How old is he now?
I don't know. He's still
gonna
kicking
look
though.
that up.
He just did the black phone mask.
Yeah.
So now we got moving over to odds and ends. A couple small things here. The first one here is the Duffer Brothers
75.
have started their own production company.
Yep.
It's called Upside Down Pictures,
Which makes sense.
Says Duffer Brothers created their own production company called Upside Down, and part of the announcement that they revealed the list of projects that they are cooking. This, of course, includes the Talisman series. So I just grabbed one quote that was new to all this.
Yeah, because we covered this 2 weeks ago, right?
There was a quote about it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But this is a new quote. We haven't heard anything since this was announced in 2019, I think, when this was announced originally.
Yeah.
So we haven't heard a lot. So I'm glad that we're actually hearing something. But this is from Matt Duffer. This is a quote that he gave to Deadline. He says it's much more fantasy. It has sci-fi. It has horror elements. It has a lot of heart. It has everything that we love, and it's got the best werewolf character ever, I think. So that's Matt.
Wolf.
That's what Matt Duffer says there. So if nothing else, you got a quote there. Some people have been treating this news-wise as though this is an announcement of the Talisman, but that was announced years ago. I don't know. I mean, if nothing else, I guess it's announced that it's part of this production company. But most likely, we are going to have to wait till the final season of Stranger Things before we see them work on this.
Which is a couple years.
It's going to be a few years away. Yeah. So So I don't know when we're going to see it, but hopefully soon. We've already waited 30, 40 years for this damn movie to come out.
Baraki, we covered this in our last episode. Yeah, Talisman it looks like it's on the docket for the Duffer Brothers.
Duffer Brothers working with Steven Spielberg, probably in a producing role. Spielberg bought the book years before it was even published. He's been holding those rights since the 80s. So, which I don't know. I don't know what to feel. Because if Spielberg would have actually directed something in the late 80s or early 90s, that would have been like prime Spielberg to do Talisman. So there's part of me that's like, as good as this may have been, like the what could have been, it just gnaws at me a little bit because look at all the stuff that he did in that era.
That would have been
it probably would have been like Timmy from Jurassic Park may have been.
That would have been right there in the peak, like the adventure era of movies. You have Indiana Jones, you have E.T., you have Hook. All those movies are coming out around those times.
Yeah, Jurassic
late
Park.
80s to early 90s, where it's like Goonies, stuff like a
not
lot
that he
of
directed that, but
No. I'm not saying Steven Spielberg alone. Just Hollywood in general had a very, very adventure vibe and stuff like that. I mean, even Stand By Me came out during that.
Yeah.
So if Talisman had come out during then. Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, all that kind of stuff. Willow.
The one thing I do think that we're going to be getting better is that it's going to be a series.
Yeah.
And I do think the book warrants more than a 2-hour movie. So I am excited in that realm, in that aspect.
Hopefully it also includes I just based on the sequel, Black House.
Black House, yeah. That's not part of the thing anything I've heard yet, but let's hope.
I hope it is.
Let's hope. Then the next thing I have is, of course, sad news. I already alluded to it a little bit. James Caan passed away. Iconically part of Misery for us Stephen King fans. But for me, I know the reason that I picked Godfather 1 as my favorite over Godfather 2 is primarily because of James Caan's portrayal of Sonny. Has always been one of my favorites. So
he's the dad in Elf. I mean, he's got so
I
many
have never
iconic
seen that,
roles.
but
dude, it's seriously. I've found out that it is one of the most beloved Christmas movies of all time.
Yeah,
it's right up there with It's a Wonderful Life and the Christmas
Jingle
Story.
All the Way.
Jingle All the Way. Yeah,
the greatest
dude,
Christmas movie
I'm
of all
telling
time.
you, I thought that you were crazy when you got me. Like we started talking about Jingle All the Way, dude. There is a following for that movie.
I'm the leader of that whole tribe, sir.
Yeah.
I've been pounding the drum for that movie for years. I love that movie. So I have a couple tweets just in tribute of James Caan's passing. Stephen King tweeted, says, very sorry to hear about the passing of James Caan, who gave an Oscar-worthy performance as Paul Sheldon in Rob Reiner's exceptional film version of Misery.
Yeah.
Then we also have Mr. Reiner himself. Rob Reiner tweeted saying, sorry to hear the news. I loved working with him. And the only Jew I knew who could calf rope with the best of them. Love to the family. So got to be some kind of reference there from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And then the Queen herself, Kathy Bates, tweeted and says, I'm heartbroken to hear of Jimmy's passing. Shocked. No words. Thank you, Jimmy. Love you. Signed, your cat. So have that, as well as she also did an interview with EW, and there she had a quote as well. She says, I can't believe Jimmy's gone. Working with him on Misery was one of the most profound experiences of my career. When you watch his performance, his terror, it's as though he's watching a snake. Brilliant. So many memories are flooding back today. Jimmy saying, quote, let's get the most hyper guy in Hollywood and make him stay in bed for 15 weeks. Which is hilarious. We were so excited when we got to shoot in the dining room. He was kind, hilarious. He would have something insightful, funny to say right now. I'm bereft. Sending all my love to the Khan family. So just wanted to mention that because it is obviously one of the more iconic Stephen King movies of all time, and he's a massive part of it. I mean, we talk a lot about Kathy Bates, but let's be honest, if you have a lesser actor against her, that her role diminishes.
It would fall flat.
Yeah, you need him and his reactions to make her
we were just
that much better. Like what it is, right? Like,
it's like we were just talking about with Kasparek and Richie. You know, but one good.
Yeah.
Together, great.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing is like with Kathy and him here, it's just like they were so perfect together that it made it even that much specialer.
Yeah. And then Carol mentions, and he didn't make Anna's list either. He should have made it because his performance in Misery is fire. Totally true.
Yeah.
Like, but again, I think he gets overshadowed by Kathy Bates. But like, it's true. Like, he's incredible. He does a killer job. So, that is the odds and ends. So that moves us to the Palaver section.
Yeah.
So this is basically our open challenge that we threw out there. It's been out for a couple months now, I think. I don't remember. I think it was, or maybe about a month ago. But basically, I found an article that ranked King's modern adaptations, and they define that as modern, and I agree, would be the year 2000 and on. So we decided, rather than actually covering that article, I would do it ourselves. Now, the only downside of that is we haven't seen everything.
That's true.
So basically, we got two people that emailed in that will be joining us along with this conversation.
Yep.
And so ranking the 21st century Stephen King films, and there is only films. That was one of the things I said. One person actually has a couple series in there, so I'll mention them, but I drop them off of their actual rankings. But yeah, so first off, we have Aaron. Aaron says, hi, Tad and Peter.
Hi.
He says, I was excited to hear about your next Palaver topic, King adaptations post-2000. Says, I've been celebrating the completion of my King movie collection. He says, let's face it, no collection will ever be complete. It all depends on how you define the parameters. By watching all of my movies in chronological order, I'm up to 11/22/63 in 2016, and I'm awarding each movie points for every other movie that I enjoy it over. So he's kind of doing like a number of like how much he enjoyed it type thing. He says, I did hear you say you're leaving off television, so I took that to mean series. So 11/22/63 would not be on the list, but I did include made-for-TV movies. The high points, the higher the points, the more I like the movie. So what I did is he had a point system. I just kind of merged that into a list.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we just went through and ranked. We both had seen 12.
Yeah.
We both had seen 12, and so we just went
out of 19,
1 through 12.
I think, or out of 18, 19, something
20.
like that.
Wasn't it 20?
I don't remember.
With the addition of the one that we forgot that we texted about this morning. Wasn't it 20?
May have been.
I think it was.
So let's see. Yeah, then I'm going to skip the rest of his email till after we go through the list. And then John, also John from Buffalo, and that's also Aaron from Oklahoma. And then we got John from Buffalo. John says, I think you said film adaptation, so I'll leave the stand out. He says, I'll put I'll put it in the 8 to 12 range if it was considered. And I left off Chapelwaite as well, but that would be in the 4 to 7 range. Here's the ranking of adaptations I've seen. And then he also gives a caveat at the bottom. Says, in addition, I'd like to say everything from 1 to 10. I liked everything from 1 to 10. The last 3, not so much. So he gave us the 13 total. And so he has kind of a line there where the top 10 he really enjoyed, but the other 3, not so much. So, and then you and I both have, I think, around 11.
12.
12?
We have 12 that we've seen, and there are 8 that we have not seen. Now, that may not be the same 8, but I think it's pretty close, isn't it?
It's probably close. Not exactly. So
I know there's at least one that I haven't seen because you swear that we watched 1408 together.
Yeah, I swear we've seen it. No. We watched it before, but apparently not. So yeah, what we're going to do is do a countdown. But I'm going to start at 13 because that's where both of our emailers, where they line up. But I will give Aaron kind of the ones below that for him. So he lists from the bottom up because he has the most listed. But it sounds like it's interesting. We've always talked about people that are like doing completionist for like reading, but yeah, it looks like he's actually doing completionist for owning and watching the adaptations, which that's awesome. That's interesting. Yeah. Maybe I should need to look into.
I mean, you got a pretty sizable movie collection. You're probably off to a good start.
Yeah, a good start is probably about all I am. But he's got the bottom of the list, A Good Marriage, 2014, and then one that I've never even considered, and I don't think I've seen it on any list. And I guess I could see why not, but it's Firestarter 2 Rekindled from 2002.
Oh, Jesus.
I guess that's kind of one of those weird gray areas. Like, you can kind of count it, but you can also not count it. Depends on how you want to look at it.
Because it's not an adaptation of an actual work. It's a sequel to...
But he did say in his... I will read the little note he had for that one.
Okay.
He says, Firestarter 2 is like halfway between a remake and a sequel, so I included it. But this movie goes beyond what the Firestarter story that King wrote, so maybe it shouldn't count. So it's kind of like a halfway one. So he's got that one. Then he has The Cell. Then he has Bag of Bones, which is actually a series. Then he's got Children of the Corn 2009, which again is one that didn't fall on any of my lists that I was pulling. So I did miss that one, but I haven't seen it. So then Desperation in 2006. Then I think he has Carrie from 2002, but I think that was a series as well. I think they did a TV series of Carrie in 2002, right?
I think it was technically a TV movie, but yeah.
Okay, and then he's got In the Tall Grass 2019, Dolan's Cadillac 2009, and then he's got Big Driver, which I don't know. I think that's more of like an independent adaptation on his. Maybe it's even a Dollar Baby thing. Then he has one that you and I, one of the first ones we probably ever talked about as friends, was Rose Red, but that is a series.
Yeah.
And then
Children of the Corn 2009 was a made-for-TV film for the Sci-Fi Channel.
Okay, yeah. I don't know why that didn't pull up on the list, like any of the lists I pulled. Kind of weird.
That's what it's saying here, at least.
Yeah. Then he's got Dreamcatcher 2003, Riding the Bullet 2004, 1922 from 2017, and then the Firestarter 2022 version, and that brings him. That's his number 14. Again, all I did is I took his list, and inverted it to count down, and then that puts us up to 13, which is where everyone else starts joining in. Well, John and Aaron join in. You and I do not have a 13th one.
We need to get to 12. Yeah.
So the first, I have little slides here. So number 13, again, Peter and I are NA for this, but we will be joining into the next round here. Yep. But Aaron has, he actually had Salem's Lot 2004, but that's a series. So I actually moved Firestarter up one, and didn't count Salem's Lot because that's a series. And then John had Dreamcatcher. I have actually not seen Dreamcatcher.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Oh, okay.
I know Damian Lewis is in that from Band of Brothers. So
there's a couple guys that are in it. One of the Wahlbergs is in it.
Yeah, Marky Mark, or
I think it's Donnie.
Donnie Wahlberg.
I think it's Donnie.
Another Band of Brothers guy then, huh?
Yeah. I think there was a couple because it was made right around the time of 2003, right? Made right after...
for some reason that one doesn't have a date on it, but... yeah, and then Cody, I did post a list on the website on the open challenges, but I will say that I forgot. Which one did I forget?
Oh, I don't remember.
Carrie,
the 2012,
2013, Carrie,
2013.
Yeah, I missed that one somehow on my list originally, which is definitely an oversight. And then there was a couple that Aaron listed that I just went through. That his list is far more extensive than mine, and it sounds like he's actually collecting them.
Yeah.
So outside of a couple series that he listed, I would say his is probably the most extensive list for sure.
Salem's Lot is in 2000. Not Salem's Lot. Dreamcatcher is in 2003. It also has, aside from Damian Lewis, and it is Donnie Wahlberg, it also has Timothy Oliphant, Morgan Freeman, and Thomas Jane.
Interesting.
It's a hell of a cast right there.
Good one there.
Yeah.
So now we're moving on to number 12. So maybe if you wanted, I originally, probably what we should have done with this is actually like capped it and didn't just say every movie, but just said like top 10.
Top
But
10.
Either way, this works. If nothing else, Aaron was able to stretch his knowledge and experience with way more watches than either of us have accomplished. But Aaron, I might take a challenge from that. I might start to. I know that that's not going to be a fun challenge in some cases. As one that's watched like Langoliers, I know that there's going to be some horrible things on experience.
Mike said I wrote a list for the challenge, then never hit send. I just looked; it's still in my draft folder.
Oh,
bummer, Mike.
Oh, that is a bummer. We only had the two that responded that I could find, but say that's happened to me before too.
I've done that.
You swear to God, you sent an email or something.
I had a message written up for you off of our last show, and I forgot to hit send.
Yeah.
So, because it was an idea for us for a challenge.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to cover that after the show.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to number 12. And that is we got John has Firestarter, and then you match him on that with Firestarter.
Yeah.
Aaron has Mercy 2014, and I've got Cell 2016. So
you've seen Cell?
Unfortunately,
I didn't know that.
So now with ours, we could I don't know if any these guys sent any notes on any of their others. But what about you? Let's go ahead and talk about your.
Refer to my Firestarter reaction video. It's garbage.
So it just comes down to it's not necessarily that it's like 12th rank because whatever, it's because
it's bad.
Yeah. Okay. So it's at the bottom. It's bad.
It has two good parts for it. The girl is fantastic as Charlie, and Zac Efron was great as the dad.
Yeah.
But basically, the whole rest of the movie was hot garbage, and I mean hot as a pun. So,
how dare you? How dare you?
I do what I can. Sir.
So yeah, that makes sense. Same with me with Cell. I remember. I don't even think I actually heard any reviews, but I was just like, "Oh, dude, the guys from 1408 doing another Stephen King adaptation." Yeah. It's maybe one of the worst things I've ever seen for Stephen King adaptations. I think maybe The Langoliers is better than that. I know that Langoliers doesn't count because it's earlier on, but yeah, this was bad.
Was it?
It was painful. Yeah, I've mostly blocked most of it out of my mind now. But I
remember
being angry at how did I watch this? So for me, this isn't 12th because whatever. This is literally because all the other ones I had listed I haven't seen yet, which is somewhat of a shame. I need to catch up on some. For instance, I know both of the In the Tall Grass 1922, the two Netflix ones.
Yeah,
I need to watch those.
Two of the Netflix ones. There's more than just those two.
Yeah, but those are two really big. That's all they're really known is they're the ones that Netflix did. That
they're not the only ones that Netflix did, though. That's what I'm saying.
Pretty much.
No, Gerald's Game was Netflix, sir.
No, that's Mike Flanagan. That's different.
Netflix. It was done on Netflix. Mike Flanagan is on Netflix, basically.
Mike Flanagan is beyond Netflix.
Carol says, I've never heard of the movie Mercy. I guess I'll be watching it later this evening.
And that's what Aaron has there. Here is Mercy. I looked it up. I hadn't heard of it either. Again, this is mostly Aaron's expertise. The couple of lists I found, and then whatever. There was a few things that I found on his list that I never found when I was searching. So maybe I should have had him email the complete list for everyone to use as their guide rods there. So then let's move up to number 11. In our countdown, we have Carrie. John has Carrie, the new 2013 Carrie. Mm-hmm. Aaron has Pet Cemetery 2019, and then you've got Dreamcatcher. Do you want to talk about Dreamcatcher?
I don't want to go too much into it because you haven't seen it and everything.
No,
but it's an interesting. It's an interesting story to begin with. Have you even read Dreamcatcher?
No, I haven't read it. No, I haven't seen it. The only thing I know about it, outside of the fact that Damian Lewis is in it, is my parents went to see it opening weekend, and my mom loved it because she had read the book, and my dad absolutely hated it. I don't know if he's ever read a book. He's not a reader, so he's more of a watcher of things. He hates reading. So I remember him just bitching about it. And that was when I was younger. So yeah. That's all I know.
Caught me off guard. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting because I've heard the same things about Dreamcatcher, that it's a terrible adaptation. I read the novel, then watched the movie. I liked it.
Okay. So you were above the line for you now in terms of you enjoy everything else that's above this?
I enjoyed parts of Firestarter. I'm just bitter because I love Firestarter so much.
Yeah.
And it just disappointed me.
It didn't achieve your
I'm sorry, that ending is the worst. It is the absolute worst. And I know we're not trying to do spoilers, but Firestarter 2022 has to be the single most disappointing ending in all of King's adaptations that I've seen.
Yeah, that's
so
brutal.
sorry. I'm going to move past that.
And that's mine at this point. I didn't necessarily hate it as bad as you, but it definitely doesn't. I guess I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it enough for it to be above anything else that we've got the rest of the way here.
See, that's the thing for me with Dreamcatcher is like, I didn't hate it, but yeah, it's not better than the stuff I have ranked above it.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I guess, I'll try to make that clear at the point when we start to get to where I actually am enjoying stuff. But yeah, for sure, this came down to like I compiled the list that I had, and I removed all the ones I hadn't seen, and then from there I tried to rank them top to bottom type things. So so let's go into 10, and then we're getting into our top 10 now. So top 10 modern King adaptations, which I should have put on the slide, that means anything from the year 2000 on, which I guess that is modern enough, right? It's just that we're getting further away from the year 2000 now. Suddenly it's like, does that modern line have to move at all?
It still hurts my head when I say, high school was over 20 years ago, and I go, what, the 80s? Oh wait, no, 20 years ago was 2002. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So number 10, let's go on over here. John has 1408. That's a fun one. Aaron has Dark Tower 2017.
Okay.
You've got Secret Window, and I have Pet Cemetery. What do you got to say about Secret Window?
I don't remember it much. I remember 2 scenes, and that's about it. So it's kind of just down here because I don't remember it much.
Oh, okay. But higher than Dreamcatcher and
higher
Firestarter.
than Dreamcatcher and Firestarter because I remember things that I didn't like about Dreamcatcher and Firestarter. Which Dreamcatcher I watched 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago before we started the podcast, and it stuck with me that I was like, oh,
okay,
like, oh god, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then Firestarter obviously is like a wound on my arm that I keep scratching at. It just keeps coming up, and it just keeps pissing me off.
Yeah. So for me, for Pet Cemetery, there was some disappointment. I thought they cast John Lithgow, which I thought was brilliant, but then I feel like they really sidelined the character a lot, which disappointed me. But there was some stuff I really loved. I love flipping the kids of who dies, and then I love the ending. It's
so dark.
Maybe not as bleak and dark as some other King adaptations, but it's pretty dark. So
bad.
I love it. I love it for that, if nothing else. So yeah, that's where I put it. I did actually everything from here above. I enjoy to one extent or another.
So you did enjoy Pet Cemetery.
Oh yeah,
for the most part.
Yeah, I mean,
you had a couple things that were a little bit of an issue for you.
Yeah,
but for the most part, you enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I wish they would have just given more to Judd, and really allowed that Judd and Lewis relationship to be there, because that's really a foundational thing to the book.
It is.
So I think if I had only watched the original movie, which I grew up watching, and I just jumped into this movie, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But I did read the book in preparation of the movie, and I think that probably harmed my appreciation of the movie more.
Yeah.
Because again, the Lewis and Judd relationship is foundational. That's probably one of the biggest relationships in the book. So to remove that, almost effectively remove that, kind of bummed me out a little bit.
Is that when you started the whole I'm not going to read it till after I've seen it?
No, I've always kind of had that. I don't know why. I think the only reason I dived into this book pre-movie, because usually I like to watch and then read. I feel like that's the best way to enjoy both. But the reason I did is because they had just got that new version with the guy that played Dexter narrating and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah, we both got that and listened to it.
Yeah, so I was just...
So we're both really excited. He's really good.
I was almost just as much jonesing to go through and read that and listen to that version as I was to see the movie, so unfortunately I did do that one first. I probably would have enjoyed this one a little bit more had I not done that, but... And then also John Lithgow, I just felt it was kind of a waste. He's such a great actor that I would have loved to have seen him have more scenery to chew.
He's in a new series with Jeff Bridges, and I really kind of want to start watching
The Dude?
it. Yeah. Him and The Dude are in a series together on Hulu, and I'm just like,
that's great.
You have my attention.
Carol says the book Cell was pretty okay, better than the movie for sure. Yeah, the movie The Cell was not good.
Not good?
It was, oh my God, dude. It's one of those ones that I can't believe I watched all the way through. I'm not one to really walk out of movies, but I got to point that out just as a slight tangent. So King apparently tweeted said in an interview, actually. We didn't even tweet it.
Yeah.
Somebody asked him something about walking out of movies, and he says he's only ever walked out of one movie in his life. And dude, you would think that he just announced like an It sequel, because every fucking news thing, like my whole inbox, like half of the emails I had were responding to that freaking thing, and I'm like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is a small anecdote. Like, why is every news thing on the fucking planet reporting this goddamn thing like it's this massive fucking? It irritated the hell out of me.
I don't follow anything regarding books, movies, or television shows on Reddit, on Twitter, or anything. I don't even follow our own podcast because people will post things there to you on Twitter, on Instagram, and everything like that. I purposely stay away from all of that. I saw it. It still came across my feed.
Yeah, I'm like, is it that interesting? And just spoiler alert if you hadn't actually seen that somehow, it was Transformers. I believe the original Transformers.
The original
movie.
Transformers.
No, not the original. The Michael Bay.
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, right.
Not the
original Michael Bay.
Yeah,
one.
not the 1984.
Not
cartoon,
any of the sequels. Yeah.
Where Optimus Prime died for the sins of humanity and gave us Prime Day.
That's not what happened.
And then Carol says, Tad's evaluation of Firestarter is the reason I haven't watched it. I don't know. I don't even know. I can't even really say if it's worth like telling people to watch it or not. Like I felt like there was some interesting stuff there. I do think they did better than the original in a lot of ways. But yeah, there were some choices made that just, I don't know. Yeah. I enjoyed it more than you did, I think. But
you did.
Yeah.
You did.
And then Alan says, I remember Johnny Depp's obnoxious glasses and the lack of expression. Seriously, I can't remember Secret Window. That seems like a theme here. Baraki says, didn't see Secret Window. I wish I never saw Dark Tower. Not a fan of the Dark Tower movie, it seems like.
Yeah.
So that's number 10. Let's move on over to number 9. And this one, we've got It Chapter 2 for John. We've got Aaron with Hearts in Atlantis. And then both of us with Carrie lining up here. A little accidental alignment here. What do you think? And the other thing, guys, we could respond to their stuff too. Is there any surprises you've seen so far on either of their lists?
Hearts in Atlantis kind of surprises me with how much we both just watched it.
Yeah.
So.
Like that it's this low.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the problem is this low, quote unquote, but it is number 9, so it means it's a top 10.
That's true.
A top 10 modern
of the
things.
modern adaptions.
So, what about Carrie though? I mean, we both have it here.
I just remember Julianne Moore being fucking fantastic, and aside from that, I hardly remember anything about this movie. I watched it once.
Yeah.
So.
I remember enjoying it.
I don't get me wrong. I
feel like
I don't mean that I didn't like it.
The main things, I think, Julianne Moore absolutely crushed it as Carrie's mom. They did bring in the kind of the cyberbullying, which at the time was like kind of happening, but it wasn't as big a thing as it is now. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I do think that the main actor, what's her name? Chloe, I forget her full name, but she did a great job as Carrie. It's just one of those things that like, I feel bad because, like I said, when it comes to adaptations, I like to see things like this isn't a remake. This is just a readaptation of the novel because I think it's unfair to compare her to Sissy Spacek. But God, it's so hard not to, because Sissy did such a good job. It's really hard for her to step into the role. Just like if they were to remake The Shining, right? Like how hard would it be for anybody to step into the role of Jack Torrance?
Well, look at how people shit on the miniseries.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Chloe Grace Moritz.
Okay, yeah.
If I said that wrong, I'm sorry.
I thought she did a good job, but yeah, ultimately the biggest highlight though is Julianne Moore. She is an absolute national treasure, and her playing Carrie's mom
with scissors.
Yeah, her playing Carrie's mom was incredible. But yeah, ultimately, you've got just the original is just so. It's still from 1976. It's still such a great movie. It still stands the test of time. So I think it doesn't leave a lot of oxygen for other interpretations to breathe a whole lot, even though I don't think it was necessarily a bad movie.
Sure.
I would say outside of Julianne Moore, maybe its biggest sin is it's kind of forgettable.
And see, that's my problem with it is that I don't remember much about it. But I do remember that I enjoyed it. I mean, it's on my top 10, so
yeah,
it wasn't down there with Firestarter where, the bad things go.
Cody says Julianne Moore nails a lot of roles. Yeah,
she does. That's why Tad called her a goddess.
Yeah. It's like she's a national treasure. Like literally, is there anybody else on the planet that could have stepped into the role of Clarice Starling in Hannibal in 2001 and replaced fucking Jodie Foster? Like,
I don't think so.
The only one, and actually the one that I dreamcasted back in the day before that movie came out, because I had heard that Jodie Foster said she wasn't interested. It was the early days of the internet, but there was still some stuff out there. The only one that I was like had my heart set on was what's her name from the X-Files.
Oh,
I blank on her name. She was also in
David Duchovny and
I'm blanking on her name. She was also in Sex Education on Netflix. She's the kid's mom. She's like a sex therapist or whatever. But she was the one that I kind of had my heart like tad, like that wasn't even like, whatever that would have been like
high school,
2000, like maybe even freaking junior high.
Gillian Anderson.
Yeah, she's the one that I kind of had my heart set on. But then Julianne Moore got cast, and I think she fucking nailed it. And yeah, imagine having to step into the role of Jodie Foster. That would have been rough.
Yeah, trying to fill those shoes is a rough go.
Yeah. So let's go on over to number 8. Number 8, we've got Secret Window popping up for John here. And then Carrie, which we just covered, is Aaron's number 8. And then you've got The Dark Tower. And then I've got It Chapter 2. So, yeah, let's... what do you think? Where are we falling now with you for Dark Tower? I know we've evolved quite a bit over the years here with this.
Well, so I rewatched it this year for the first time in a couple years, and while it is entertaining and stuff like that, it just hurts. It's hearing everyone bring up very valid points and very valid arguments about what's wrong with it and what was left out and how bad it is. Honestly, the nail in the coffin, which drops it all the way down here to number 8, is what it should be my number 1, because I love The Dark Tower. There's a reason I'm here.
Yeah.
And I've been here for years with you. There's a reason that we have this show.
The reason you put up with all my abuses.
well, I mean...
Oh, that's right. You're a glutton for punishment.
That's true.
You enjoy all the torture.
I do. But, hearing all that and then watching it again, it just, it hurts. More and more it's hurting us to go back and rewatch it. As great as Idris Elba is, as good as Matthew McConaughey is and everything like that, it is hard to go back and watch it. But the nail in the coffin was hearing what could have been.
Yeah, like
all the leaks and stuff like that have come out about studio interference, Nikolai getting silenced in that article that disappeared off the internet.
Yeah,
we can't find it anymore. Hearing that the script came out and seeing people's reaction to what the original script looked like and everything, and what they were originally going to do, having Jake die at the end of it, instead of surviving and being saved,
and not just die, but most likely being killed by Roland.
It was killed by Roland, is what I've heard, and so just stuff like that has knocked it down off that pedestal that I had. That initial reaction. I mean, the reaction video's out there. Go watch it on our show.
Yeah.
I was so high on it. I thought it was one of the best things I'd ever seen, but time has
it's lost its luster.
Time has done its nasty thing where it's degraded it a little bit for me. So that's the reason why Dark Tower's down here.
Okay. And then I've got It Chapter 2. For me, like, I just think that it was so I enjoy. I'm at a point now where everything above here I do enjoy. Yeah. So when I do highlight maybe negatives, I'm just saying why it's not higher, I guess, would be kind of the question I'm answering. And for me, the reason why I wouldn't put this higher is because I feel like they like for instance, Mike pretty much got screwed out of this movie, same as the first movie, and he's the one that stays, and I just feel like they took all of the interesting stuff from him and gave it to other characters. Wasn't a fan of that. My biggest gripe with It Chapter 2 is it's just a flabbiness, and it primarily comes from the fact that they wasted so much time going back and showing me kid shit again. Like either cross cut and do it like King did and cross cut back and forth, or split it into two things. Don't try to half-ass do both. Yeah. Don't do all kids and then do another movie where half the fucking thing is you're adding a half hour, 45 minutes worth of time to it because you're going to replay kid shit and do the weird de-aging to make these kids look younger than they were.
Because that's what everyone liked from the first one.
Yeah, it's like if you want to cross-cut, then they should have just filmed both of them at the same time and
then cross-cut it.
Yeah, and cross-cut it, like so like that
there
to me.
There are movies, and I'll tell you right now, I have a perfect example in my head of one where it does bounce back and forth between the two times and keeps a cohesive story and brings the climax of both stories coming to a head at the same time. And that's The House on Haunted Hill.
Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House. Flanagan did that so good, where it's like them moving into the house and the family dealing with the trauma later.
The adults.
Yeah. But what he did there is what it should have been.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
if they wanted to go that route.
I enjoyed it. Chapter 2, I did, but I think if they could have just trimmed like 30 to 40 minutes out of all that kid stuff and just let it be the full adults, and let the first movie carry what you wanted to carry over with the kids. look at the first movie, and if you want like Ben to remember something, have him remember that scene when he's down in the library thing chasing the eggs and the headless body comes after him. Don't create a whole new fucking scene. And I again, unless that's your whole purpose. And then I also think they kind of leaned away from some of the weirdness, like the ritual of Chud stuff. Like I just think they could have gone a little bit lean into like some of the batshit stuff that Stephen King did, and that stuff they didn't. So I think those are my small critiques that kind of bring it down a little bit for me, even though I really did enjoy it. I know a lot of people shit on this movie when it first came out. I'm nowhere near that. I actually really did enjoy it. I enjoyed all the adult stuff. I thought the casting was brilliant for the adults and stuff. I just think there was they need a little bit more discipline is all in my mind. So
Cody says Julianne Moore is in Lizzie's stories. I haven't seen enough to know if the show is good, but her acting seems on point.
I need to finish that one still.
I need to watch it. I haven't watched it. Carol says Idris Elba is easy to look at, and he's a good actor, but whoever put this movie together, talk about Dark Tower, did him a disservice and gave me and others the letdown of a lifetime as a hardcore Dark Tower fan.
Yeah.
And Baraki says, yep, also show stuff like the Ironworks history and the Black Spot, and so much more they could have done instead of like the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just think that there was just some critiques I had of it chapter 2, even though overall I enjoyed it. I mean that bleacher scene with that little kid under the bleachers. I know it torments
Dude,
you.
you keep bringing it up recently. Stop it.
But that's such a fucking killer, amazing scene, dude.
It is.
It was so well done. The fact that it still sticks with you now. Like, it's almost as good as Baseball Boy in terms of sticking with people.
And I haven't rewatched. I've rewatched it once since it came out, which is 2019.
Yeah.
I've rewatched it once, and it still sticks with me. By the way, it came up on my my little Reels thing where someone's dog was watching and freaked out at the bleacher scene.
Yeah.
Like, lost its goddamn mind, was barking its head off.
Well, as it should. All right, let's go on over to number
7.
Got to keep track here. So John has Pet Cemetery. Aaron has Gerald's Game, which actually surprises me.
That's too low.
That's a low spot to see Gerald's Game, which is I'm not like challenging. Everyone has their own opinions, but it shocks me to see. And I will say you shock me a little bit later. So we will get to that. But then you have It Chapter 2. And then I've got Dark Tower. So we just basically flipped our two movies here. So what do you have to say about It Chapter? I know I just had a whole spiel on it. But
basically, you've said most of it. I mean, I agree with you that it needs... I mean, come on. It is my favorite book of all time by Stephen King. Over anything Dark Tower, I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's your biggest... Yeah.
It is my biggest. I read it once a year just like you do with The Stand. Once a year. In fact, I've been getting the itch for it again, and I think I'm going to hold off.
Going to Derry?
I think I'm going to hold off returning to Derry after, for my next cycle because my wife wants to watch the movie, which is a huge thing because she's always said no to clowns and dolls and puppets and everything like that. So her saying yes.
So Richie's her boy, huh?
Richie's going to be her boy. I know that for a fact. Although she really might.
But he doesn't like clowns or dolls and stuff.
That's true. She really might resonate with Bev, though. But anyways, It Chapter 2 just kind of let me down. The ending is really kind of my big thing. Deflating and melting is just kind of like so anticlimactical.
Yeah, it's tough.
And the disservice they did to Mike, you're right, is wrong.
That's rough to me. Yeah, especially like in an age where seemingly people are a little bit more cognizant of like how like people are treated based on race. To basically completely eliminate the one black character is kind of tough to swallow for me. Again, and not even just because like I'm not like making it purely a race thing, but it turns into like Mike's an important fucking character.
He is
in the story. He's a massive fucking character, and they literally had to take some of his storylines had to be there. And they literally took it away and gave it to freaking Ben. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's not
if they split Mother Abigail into two characters. It's like, no,
it's not, and it's not even that Ben had nothing to do. Ben had plenty to do as well. So it's not like they were like, oh well, shit, Ben's not going to be in this movie. We got to give him something. No, they were like, well, Ben already has some shit, but let's take all the shit from Mike as well and give it to him. And I'm like. And like, there's
what did he do to you? What did Mike do to you guys?
Yeah,
come on.
And it's like, and not to mention like they didn't play up like the whole idea that like the rest of them went on to be successful. Like I feel like the first series did that better, whereas he stayed there and was poor basically because he was the one that was whatever decided to stay, chosen to stay and hold the memory or whatever. I just felt like there was a lot they could have given him. I know this is your moment to speak on it. Chapter
Well,
2. But
we're
yeah,
basically the same. 8 and 7. I mean, we're basically the same spot. But what go on about Dark Tower? I mean, I've said a lot already about it and everything. What about you?
I think it's very similar. I enjoyed it a lot when it first came out. Kind of just because I'm one that I can have expectations, but for the most part, I try to let things be what they are. But I was definitely more caught up in it at the time. But as time's gone by, yeah, like just kind of more like the luster's worn off a bit. I do still enjoy it for what it is, but it's like, because you know, and in the way some people talk, they act like it's like the worst thing that Stephen King's made. Stephen King movie has been made off of his stuff, and I'm like, have any of you all seen Cell or The Langoliers? Like, some of you people don't know what a bad movie is if you think Dark Tower is like 19 or whatever it was ranked on like Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, there's no way this movie's that low. Like,
I mean, Maximum Overdrive exists too. Let's be perfectly honest. Maximum Overdrive is, dude, we enjoyed it, but I'll tell you right now, Dark Tower is a better movie than Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. So for me, I don't think it's nearly as bad as some people try to rag on it to be. I did love Idris Elba being cast as Roland. I absolutely adore Idris Elba. He's one of my favorite actors. So I loved that choice. Tom Taylor playing Jake was awesome.
He was good.
The scenes with those two were so enjoyable to me that I'm able to like kind of let go of some of the stuff that I disliked, because like when he's helping Jake overcome the sadness of his mom, teaching him the gunslinger prayer, like all that kind of stuff, like all that shit was like some of the best stuff, and to see that on the big screen was awesome to me. Matthew McConaughey was a great pick, but I just don't think they wrote enough good stuff for him. I felt like they underwrote that character, and I think they could have made something really fucking interesting with Matthew McConaughey. There was some stuff I enjoyed though, like the whole idea that he could just tell someone to stop breathing is just a wonderful superpower to give my boy Randall Flagg. You know, because imagine, you know, I mean, he's a good guy, though, so we know that he won't misuse that, Peter. Don't worry.
Just stop it. Just stop it.
And then like Catherine Winnick as Jake's mom did a killer job. It was a small role, but I think she did an admirable job with it. But there was some cool imagery of the Dark Tower that I still
the fish out of water stuff love. Is some of my best.
The fish out of water stuff's great, of course.
Baraki says it's not the Dark Tower is so bad as a movie. It's if I had never read the series, but the letdown was so hard, especially now that I hear what it could have been. Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying as well. And I'll tell you right now, what that is said, if you replace Dark Tower with Firestarter, is why I have such a hard time with that. Firestarter had none of the redeeming qualities that you're saying like Dark Tower has. Like, I'll tell you right now, and I'll defend this. Him teaching Jake the gunslinger creed, and
he still gives me chills.
I'm getting chills right now.
Every once in a while, I'll pull it up on YouTube just to watch that scene, and it gives me chills. Like, it's just incredible.
And the firefight after that was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit modernizing John Wick and Matrix, you know. But you know what? That's modern cinema. That's what action fans want, and it would have served well. I just feel like they kind of jumped the shark a little bit, and maybe not jumped the shark is the right term, but they kind of went off the rails a little bit with some of the stuff, the choices they made, especially early in the film. They kind of derailed it to where that climax couldn't be that, and then them changing that ending was just unforgivable.
You could definitely see a lot of the studios. I think, honestly, if they would have just let like the filmmakers do their thing, and they didn't like studio it to death
alone.
Yeah, if they didn't studio it to death, I think it probably would have been a much better movie.
But Sony's famous for that too.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The thing.
And Sony's just good, like famous for not making good movies. To be honest, like every once in a while they get lucky and they accidentally let like filmmakers do their thing, and you get into the Spider-Verse. But outside of that, dude, you look through it and it's like, cool. They get no credit for these modern Spider-Man movies because wasn't them.
Everything has to be controlled by MC.
Everything that they do on their own is just. God, they're half-assed, man.
I will say, we absolutely did forget about that. Spencer brings it up, and I'm glad you chimed in, Spencer. Thank you. Seeing Roland reload his guns is the best part of that movie. As good as the Creed is and everything like that, seeing him do fast reloads and the different reload styles and everything like that was one of the coolest things I've ever seen on film.
Yeah, so I and again, I'm in a spot where I already said a number of spaces down. Everything above here I'm enjoying, and I do enjoy, honestly, Dark Tower is where it is for me because of what's above it than Dark Tower itself. Like, I'm not putting it at 7 because it's like, well, this is as far as I'm going to let it go. No, it's because everything above here I did enjoy more.
Yeah.
More so. And also some of these I've enjoyed for a little more of a distance of time or whatever as well in some cases. So, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Carol's right. Unfortunately, I believe some of the trashing of the Dark Tower movie is related to the casting of Idris Elba based on race. I remember seeing negative stuff after the casting and before the movie was even filmed.
Oh, yeah.
We covered that. That year was almost solely dedicated to that film coming out and everything.
Yeah.
And both of us absolutely covered that Idris Elba is a fantastic actor. He's one of the best in Hollywood right now, in my opinion.
And he hasn't been given a ton of shot yet to be a starring role.
And I will say, I'm tempted to see Beast just because Idris is in it.
Oh, yeah. That's why we're going to see it. August 19th.
We're not seeing it, sir.
August 19th.
You stop that talk.
August 19th.
But yes, I do remember what you're talking about, Carol. And it saddens me that that's still a thing in this day and age. We're in 2022 and we're still seeing it. So,
and he's such a talented actor, man. He's
so good.
Like man, like just watch The Wire. He's so fucking incredible. And then you look at all the other stuff he's done. He's different in everything he does. Like he's great. I love him.
The character of Roland was different than Heimdall. They weren't the same character.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and though they could have very easily been basically the same character. guy on a mission. There, done. I don't have to do that much to make this paycheck. But no, he still brought his own thing to it.
Yeah, and I think Tom Taylor did a killer job.
Oh, Tom Taylor was great.
I think honestly, outside of Idris Elba, Tom Taylor's probably the next MVP of the movie.
Yeah.
He did an incredible job. So, so that is number 7. Let's go on over to number 6. We got In the Tall Grass for John. We've got Secret Window for Aaron. You've got Pet Sematary 2019, and then I've got 1408, which I swear to God you had seen.
You swear to God that we had gone and seen together.
Yeah, I swear. Yeah, I really don't know who I went and saw that with, but yeah. So what do you think of Pet Sematary? I already hit that one down at number 10. You've got it a little bit higher than me.
I got it a little bit higher because I do love I love what they did with this book. I agree with you that the Judd neglect was sad. That was really, really sad. But the fact that they changed it to where it's not, little Gage, it's the daughter.
The daughter.
And everything.
Ellie.
And I'll tell you right now, that ending is the darkest ending in anything except for The Mist.
Yeah, I was about to say, you better watch it. I was about to say, I was getting ready to snipe you there and correct you. But
anything except The Mist.
Yeah, you saved yourself there.
You cannot argue that the Pet Sematary and The Mist are like 1 and 2.
I thought you were going to say the worst thing, period, and not qualify yourself out with The Mist, because I was about to jump on you there, because I'm like, no, you can't. But I enjoyed it as well, for sure. But yeah, it looks like you enjoyed it a bit more than me, even over It Chapter 2, which is just because of as big of an It fan as you are.
It's because of how big of an It fan I am of the novel. It's the same thing with Firestarter. It's the reason that they're so low is because there are serious problems with those films. So Pet Sematary, the one issue is that they left Judd out a little bit, but I felt that gave Lewis a more chance. Is it Lewis?
Yeah, but I'm just trying to picture who he is. The problem was, as I was reading it, I was picturing the Dexter guy in the role. That still sticks in my head, and I know that he didn't play him in the movie. I was the guy that, I know who it was now. I don't know his name, but I'm picturing him now. But it took me a second because I was picturing freaking Dexter, and I was like, oh, yeah, him as the dad. But no, and I agree with you. I think the biggest thing for me isn't even necessarily, the loss of the relationship with, Judd and Lewis sucked, but I think it was more so because I was so hyped that they had cast John Lithgow.
It was a waste.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, really? You're going to bring him in and then fucking flush it with just that? So one of these days I'm going to revisit it, and I wonder how that'll change my view of it, because I think I own it, but I don't think I've rewatched it since it came out in theaters. And 1408, again, everything I am at this point is stuff I enjoy. I've said that. I don't remember where my line was at. Probably around Pet Sematary at number 10. Basically my whole top 10. Kind of like John. John said his top 10. Everything he enjoyed. The first 3, the last 3 for him, Carrie, Firestarter, and Dreamcatcher, he didn't enjoy so much, is what he said. So I'm kind of the same. Firestarter and Cell. Firestarter I enjoyed a bit. Cell not at all. And then everything else here is realms of enjoyment. 1408's good, though. One of these days I'm going to watch it with you because it's really good. I really enjoyed it. And you just read it, too. So
yeah.
It's a great novella, but I just thought it was incredible. I actually remember going into it not having a lot of expectations. I just expect, this is just going to be kind of a whatever kind of horror movie, and it kind of blew me away because it was so much better than I thought it would be. So that's 1408 for me.
Sweet.
Then moving on to number 5.
This is getting into ones that I really, really love.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is top 5. So John has Hearts in Atlantis. Aaron has It Chapter 2. And then you and I both have Hearts in Atlantis. So we just we just watched this recently for Patreon, right? In the last couple months. Was it?
Yeah.
So we just watched this on our Patreon, and so it's a little bit fresh in our minds. We read the book, all that kind of stuff. Honestly, I don't think I had ever seen it, or if I had seen it, I saw it when it first came out. I didn't remember much of it. So when we watched it again recently, I was blown away by it. I mean, the only disappointing thing of it was the scrubbing of anything Dark Tower related.
Yeah.
And basically, like the low men
Kind of makes sense.
The low men just became like almost like 1950s CIA agents.
Yeah.
They're just dudes that are wearing like that 1950s Secret Service hat and suit. So it's like, dude, just put them in like pimp outfits, give some impression that they're not human, and like animalize the car a little bit, and like that would have been it would probably be a lot higher on the list, which is hard to say because there's a lot of good stuff here.
What can you say when it's Anthony Hopkins starring? I mean, that man is amazing, and that was my favorite part of that whole film was him. But the kid was also great.
Yeah.
So,
Anton Yelkin.
Oh,
yeah.
I miss him.
Yeah. He unfortunately died a few years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a killer actor. He did a lot of great stuff in his short life, including this movie where he was just a kid acting against Anthony Hopkins. Did a pretty good job. So yeah, can't say enough good things about it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. There was just only some small gripes really. Outside of that, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then Baraki did say, I defended them for casting Elba regarding the race thing, even though in the book the race thing matters in relation to Susanna stuff. Elba's a good actor, but his own thing was not the right thing. I don't know. I've said multiple times back when that was before the movie came out. I think that Idris Elba, they easily could have pulled it off because Detta's hatred, while most of it was focused through race, it easily could have been equally towards, because she hated Roland not even just because of race. There was something she
calls him the bad man.
She understood like the danger of what Roland was, and there was just because like Detta feared Roland ultimately, and so that was at the base of it all. Like, yes, a lot of the spewing that came out was racial, but I don't think any of that was actually that needed. And I mentioned it. My like quick knee jerk, what a writer could do to get around that if we had got more movies, could have just been that she just writes him off as an Uncle Tom and a traitor to his race type thing, and that would have been could have even been more vitriolic from her than him being white. So I don't think that's as big a deal, and I just wished Idris Elba would have been given some more opportunities. I think they gave him way more than they gave McConaughey. But yeah, I really wish he could have I would have loved to have seen like Drawing of the Three with him. I don't know, but yeah, that's obviously a different time. Now we're looking for a TV series with Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, Baraki makes a good point. And they didn't even put Eddie or Susanna in it.
Yeah,
like that's the thing is like like
which I'm glad they didn't know, because in the 90-minute movie, the worst thing they could have done was like try to ham them in somehow.
Do an origin story for a group coming together. Imagine doing Avengers without all the
oh
wait, we did see that. It's Justice League.
Justice
My bad.
League. And then Carol says actors need something to work with to shine. Direction and production wise, they cheated Mr. Lithgow a little bit, and I agree. Yeah. John just,
and that's the thing with,
and he's
Pet
so
Sematary.
fucking good, man.
He is.
He's such a good actor. Like, I don't think, unless you've seen some of his earlier works or Dexter, I think a lot of people just think, oh, he was a funny guy. He did a sitcom back in the 90s, and he's so much more than that. And he can be funny as fuck.
He was so serious before he did Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah,
so go watch Cliffhanger.
Yeah. All I can ever think of with Cliffhanger though is the raccoon from Ace Ventura.
Damn you, Tad.
that ruined me of Cliffhanger, dude. I could never watch Cliffhanger again after that.
It's one of those spoof ones that just overtake the
and it wasn't even
original scene.
It was only like one scene. It wasn't even like a whole movie spoof. It was like one scene, but it killed the whole Cliffhanger for me.
That's the second Ace Ventura too.
Yeah. And then Carol says, I enjoyed both the book and the movie, The Hearts and Atlantis. I agree with Tad. Idris Elba was cheated. Direction and production wise, also he could have really done something with it. Yeah. He's one that I don't think he's yet been given, except for The Wire, a chance to really show people what he's worth, and I'm hoping he can get that still. Like Beast might be a good chance.
You'll have to let me know.
Oh, no, you'll know. August 19th, sir. 19. See, it's a sign. Roland, 19. It's a sign. It's got to happen. So it is funny. Hearts and Atlantis here. Almost have a jackpot here, but we have that one which no worries, Aaron, not like calling you out, but it's just when I was building this, I'm like 1, 2. Oh. if I knew how to animate, I'd do it like a slot machine, have them like land.
That'd be funny.
Atlantis, and then Hearts Atlantis. All right, so let's go on over to number 4. Number 4, we got John with The Dark Tower. We got Aaron with 1408. And then this is a shocker for me, Dr. Sleep at number 4 for you. Just, I don't know.
It's literally number 4. Like, I'm only saying there's 3 movies better than Dr. Sleep. That's the shocker for you?
It surprised me. That's all. Kind of like Gerald's Game at number 7 for Aaron. That surprised me too. I don't know. And I don't know if you've been surprised by any of mine, but it took me aback, and I even looked at your list. I'm like, did I read that wrong? Like, is this in the wrong spot here? What's going on? And then I've got Gerald's Game at number 4. So Dr. Sleep. What do you got?
Well, I don't understand. Like, it's 4.
Explain yourself.
It's not 8. Like, what's going on here?
Explain yourself. Dr. Sleep.
Dude, I love Dr. Sleep. Like there's only a couple things really.
So we're now at the realm where, like, you love everything.
We were there the last one. I mean, I loved Pet Cemetery,
Yeah.
And Hearts and Atlantis.
Yeah.
I love both of those.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few gripes that I have here. It's just where, if I look at it, like, Dr. Sleep still has a little bit of The Shining hangover, where The Shining has, as good as The Shining is, it's hard for me to like it as much because I have the novel and I have Stephen King's opinion of it.
Yeah.
And also now I have the miniseries with Steven Weber, which is really good. It follows the book a lot more.
He's coming to the Salt Lake Comic Con.
He is.
And I'm going to go, and I'm going to bring my Shining
miniseries
DVD to have him sign.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing he's not going to get a lot of Shining things to sign. I'm sure it's mostly wings.
Yeah,
he's going to be signing. So I'm excited.
I want to take a copy of it. And
maybe I'll get a Roke Melon.
There you go.
That'd be a fun one.
I want to get a copy of it signed by him.
Yeah,
because dude, I listen to it once a year, and I love his audiobook.
He did a killer.
So good.
Yeah, he did a killer job.
But
with it.
Dr. Sleep is great. I love Dr. Sleep. In fact, I need to watch it with my wife. She still hasn't seen it.
I need to watch the extended edition.
That's where I started to get in trouble with her. Is that Dr. Sleep is really where she's like, you need to stop excluding me from horror films. And I went, what are you talking about? She's like, ever since it, you stopped taking me to horror films. I'm like, no, I haven't. She's like, what's the last horror film we went to? And
Halloween.
Ooh. And so Dr. Sleep was one where she called me out. She's like, I love The Shining. Why didn't we go see Dr. Sleep? Why didn't I go with you? And I was like, oh boy. And so that's where it's led to where she wants to see it now, is that she wants to see Dr. Sleep, but I still haven't rewatched it, because the next time I watch it, I'm going to watch it with her.
Yeah.
And dude, I actually just reread Dr. Sleep.
Yeah.
Again. Like, I did 11/22/63, and I did Dr. Sleep back to back.
Yeah.
So I love Dr. Sleep, and there's no knock on it being number 4. It's just that I do like 3 movies better than it.
Yeah.
So
me, Gerald, like, it's kind of the same. We're at the realm now where it's like everything at this rate.
You got to justify it being this low almost.
No, for me, it's just everything. For sure, everything top 5 for me is like just I adore. It's just the level I adore. And Gerald's Game is a movie that absolutely should not work, but it does. In fact, in our Discord not too long ago, I sent the Moon Man or whatever, and there's a picture. Just because I gotta cheer everyone up, and I think I sent it at night too.
You did. Carol asked in the chat, Dr. Sleep commentary. Carol, we are actually going to be doing a deep dive into Dr. Sleep, both novel and movie, for Patreon coming up.
Yeah, someone requested that in the Patreon. So, because that is another thing for the Patreon. If you join Patreon, we basically are kind of your guys' dancing monkeys. If you want us to do a cover something, and somebody requested us do that for Dr. Sleep. So that is
a couple people requested Maximum Overdrive, which is where that came from. And then
dude, that movie was still wonderful, dude. Like, I know people shit on it, but that movie, I was expecting to be a lot worse than it was, dude. All I'm saying.
It had some bad moments, that's for sure. But
a kid getting crushed by a steamroller was one of the best things I've ever seen, dude. I can't
believe you just said that's the best. Oh
my
God,
that was almost as good as a judo chop to the face in freaking the original Firestarter.
What is wrong with you?
It was incredible.
A kid getting run over by a steamroller is never good.
Dude, as a horror fan, you've got to appreciate like when someone does something like absolutely nutty. Dude, King killed a dog, for God's sake.
No, why are we referencing Clapping Monkey? Stop that.
Yeah, Jolly Chimp.
No.
You can buy them. They come from Japan, though, so they take a while to get here.
Stop it.
So, Gerald's Game absolutely should not have worked. But this is really where Mike Flanagan got on my radar. Oculus was one he did earlier, was good, but didn't, like, it's one of those ones like, oh, it's a good movie. But it wasn't like one where I'm like, I gotta watch anything this guy does from now on. But Gerald's Game, I was like, holy fuck, dude.
Yeah.
Like because again, I hadn't even read Gerald's Game, but like I knew the basic premise. So like when I heard they had done a movie, I'm like, how do you even film that? Like, how is that even a thing? And I watched it expecting it to be kind of a train wreck, and it was far from it. So, yeah, great. Definitely one of the better deglovings in Mike Flanagan's illustrious degloving career.
Nope.
He does it in everything.
Bad tap.
The only one I don't remember Oculus enough to know if there was a degloving in there, but if
I don't know anything about Oculus.
so, actually, I just read something recently with him where Oculus it's its own thing, but he literally did it because 1408 was already being done by someone else.
Oh, really?
So he created Oculus, so it's kind of
Oh, okay.
1408-ish. But yeah, so Gerald, that's where Gerald's Game is for me. Let's see, did I miss anything?
Carol says, "Oh yeah, I've been a patron for a long time. I guess I should throw more ideas your way." Absolutely, Carol. Let us know. And then Mike says, instead of dancing monkeys, is a clapping monkeys comment. And then Cody says, "Maximum overdrive, completely illogical goal."
Indeed. Yeah. That's
like people getting
like
hit in the face.
it's one
with,
it's one of the best things that cocaine has ever brought us.
like
is,
a kid getting chased down the street by a lawnmower and having that ominous music playing.
It was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. But yes, but yeah, we'll be your jolly chimps with the little symbols.
Oh yeah,
on Patreon. Like, yeah, you guys let us know what we want to do, and we'll
we
do
are
it, so.
we are the clapping monkeys. There you go. There's a soundbite for you.
We'll have another one. We'll have one in the office at some point. You won't know where he's at. You'll just hear him. He'll randomly come on and.
When it does, I'm breaking it.
So I'll make sure it's.
And then I'm never coming back over here again. We will have to start recording remotely. You have to figure that out.
Unless I get one in your house as well. If I did order two, which seems like something I would do.
Which my wife showed up in an episode a couple times ago saying that she would help out.
She would help. Oh yeah. See, that's the thing. I know she'd help me out with things like that. So
yeah, she would because she has to get back at me.
Let's jump on to number 3. And now here's where we're starting to get a little bit more singular. We got John and myself have It, the movie It. You and Aaron both have The Mist. Yeah. So what do you got for The Mist?
Greatest ending in Stephen King adaptions. I mean, we talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
Where you were saying that you were going to call me out if Pet Sematary was.
Yeah.
Dude, The Mist. I have such a visceral reaction to this. Like, I'm actually starting to clench my fists now just thinking about her. Someone mentioned her earlier in the chat, and it just made me cringe. Like,
I mentioned her in this episode as well.
It happens. She's a bitch, and I hate her.
I should get a slide of her where it says expiation or whatever, and just have like the gift to just pop up randomly. Expiation.
The worst one, if you do it, the worst one is where she's like holding the knife, and it's like from the side shot of her with the knife,
or where she's got it above her head. It's like I can't allow you to leave or whatever. Like, I won't allow it.
I won't allow it.
Yeah.
like you saying that I'm like, hey, I'll pay this time, and you're like, I won't allow it. Dude, I'm gonna seriously break my phone, probably gripping it so tight. I hate her. I've never had that reaction to any other character from King in a adaptation.
I think in my mind, it's all Darabont, dude.
Yeah.
So not King obviously created the character,
sure,
but Darabont is good because he's got Mrs. Carmody. He's got, was it Percy in Green Mile?
Yeah.
So you got him, and then you've got Norton in Shawshank. Yeah. Like, he just, I know King create like kind of whatever, but like Darabont, there's something about him, man. He just absolutely creates some horrible human beings from King's creations. Anything else to say on The Mist then?
Aside from that, it's still just a great film. I love the premise of it, and then I think that Thomas Jane actually did a remarkably good job as the dad.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong. Captain Holt
as the neighbor. Yeah.
So
yeah, and a bunch of people from Walking Dead. If you're into
a ton of people from Walking Dead.
Because it was only a couple years before Darabont got the job for that, so he definitely cast a lot of people there. All right, so for me, for It, just incredible. I mean, it's, again, we're at a spot now where everything I'm doing here, it's the levels of love. And just the movie, I remember being hyped as fuck for it, but there was still part of me deep in my heart that had reservations. Because it's just such a good book. I just didn't know if it was ever going to be adapted perfectly. So I had my reservations, and actually coming out of it, I remember thinking like, this actually wasn't even that much a horror. As good as it was, and the horror scenes it had were horrible. It was really a coming of age movie in a lot of ways, like almost like Black Phone, in that way. Like it didn't feel as horror. Like it didn't like at the end of the movie, you weren't like, I don't know. You felt differently because I felt like they really leaned into the coming of age stuff a lot. So like I said, not saying it's not scary because it has its moments for sure. Skarsgård, I didn't know if he would ever be able to overcome what Curry did, but he absolutely did his own thing and actually knocked it out of the park.
And has become recognizable for it.
Yeah, all the kids did incredible.
A new generation is scarred from clowns.
The Georgie scene is absolutely insane. It's one of the most iconic scenes potentially in horror film history. And easily one of the most iconic King things because like it was iconic in the book, it was iconic in Tim Curry's version, and it was iconic in this version. And to go the extra mile and show the arm being ripped off or having been ripped off in this version was just like immediately you're like, holy fuck, dude, this movie's gonna be brutal. Yeah. Right, because like of course the other one was on TV, so you couldn't have really shown that. But I think that was their way to like telegraph right up front. It's like you're not watching a TV show this time.
Yeah, this isn't your mom and dad's it.
Yeah, so just incredible. Machete did an incredible job. The librarian in the background looking at Ben, out of focus but staring at him with an evil fucking smile is one of the more terrifying small things I've seen in a horror movie in a long time. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah, and then Carol says the Mist, zero flaws but so stressful to watch. It's great.
Yeah,
that is exactly how you would categorize the Mist. This is just so like edge of your seat like almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Baraki says the book felt really coming of age to me anyway. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've said that before. Yeah.
And I agree, and I think it's almost a bigger part of the book than the actual horror is.
It is.
You know, but when you're going to adapt it into a 2-hour movie, does Tad going into that theater believe that any of the coming of age stuff's really going to be that prevalent, or are they going to like? You have 2 hours, and do I think they're going to lean towards coming of age or horror? I think they're going to lean horror. So the fact that they leaned as much to the coming of age along with the horror, there was a balance there that I absolutely didn't expect. I just didn't give them credit as filmmakers to be able to pull that off because that was a tightrope.
Oh yeah,
like that was an absolute fucking tightrope. And I just think that generally speaking, and I'm guessing the studio probably wanted Machete to lean more towards horror anyway. And I think he had a perfect balance, but I didn't expect any of the coming of age stuff to pull through.
Yeah.
For some reason. So let's move on to number 2. We've got Gerald's Game with you and John.
Yep.
Aaron has It, and then I've got The Mist.
Yeah.
So what do you got for Gerald's Game?
Dude, this is what started my Mike Flanagan love.
Yeah.
This set it off because I remember having the conversation with you, and I can remember it almost clear as day and almost word for word. I watched it. I went to you and I went, dude, have you watched Gerald's Game on Netflix? And you go, no. And I go, dude, it was unreal. It was so good. It's a fantastic movie. You have to watch it. It's so good. And then you were looking at it and you go, oh, it was directed by Mike Flanagan. And I go, yeah, who's that? And you go, oh, dude, have I got something for you? And the Haunting of Hill House,
oh, yeah.
Midnight Mass, Dr. Sleep,
yeah,
everything else from Flanagan that I've watched since then. I still need to watch Bly Manor.
And then you also have to watch Oculus.
I still have to watch Oculus.
Which is one of his first.
It's like unreal how good he is at horror.
Yeah,
and he's not. And the thing with Flanagan, he's not just that boo horror.
Yeah, no, he understands horror at a deep level.
He knows how to do. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get probably roasted a little bit. Boo horror, the jump scare horror has a place.
Oh yeah,
it
absolutely,
does.
for sure.
But the problem is, I love.
You can't overdo it.
I love the phrase that you taught me when we were in high school. Jump scare horror has to be earned.
Yeah,
you can't just every 5 seconds and scare people and think that it's a good horror.
You got to get that. You got to build tension with people to where they're on edge, and then a jump scare. Like then you've earned it. If it's just like just a random ass scene, and then like, oh shit, a car just runs this character over, like.
Final Destination.
Okay,
like oh my god, like that happened, but doing it every single time is not good horror to me. There is a place for jump scares, and there's a way to use them. And I'll tell you right now, Mike Flanagan has the single greatest jump scare in film, TV, anything history.
Exorcist 2 might.
anything history.
Exorcist 2 has.
I've seen that, and I'll tell you right now, Flanagan's is better.
You've only seen it. You've seen it out of context.
No,
though.
I watched the whole scene.
No, you didn't watch the whole movie though.
No.
Again, you're taking the jump scare down to a single scene. Like you build to that, like you just talked about.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that like it's. I would say watch Exorcist 2 at some point, maybe for spooky season coming up.
Here we go.
And whatever. But I'm not disagreeing in general principle that what you're talking about is one of the better jump scares of all time. Certainly,
it is
in Haunting of Hill House. Which
to talk not just about Flanagan and his other work,
but
Gerald's game has to be one of the, like you said, I
on-
love the way you said it. It should not work, but damn if it doesn't.
Yeah, it should be unfilmable.
It should be a woman handcuffed to a bed.
Yeah.
Should by herself basically
After her lover dies.
after her lover dies from a random heart attack and having
Yeah.
no means of getting out, no means of calling for
Yeah.
help or anything like that.
It's a perfect novel,
perfect story.
but you can't.
It
You
should
can't really do
not.
that in a movie.
Oh yeah, it is a novel. I was thinking it was a short story.
Yeah,
for some-
no.
no, it's an absolute novel, and but man, does this movie is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
What about the Mist?
I mean, The
know
Mist.
I know what you're going to say about the Mist.
For me, Darabont gets all the love and adulation he deserves for Shawshank and Green Mile, and I think so many people sleep on The Mist and they just brush it off. But it's like, to me, that's Darabont leaning into the horror side of King, and I think that just comes into like the disrespect most people have for horror in general. Is they'll give love and adulation for Green Mile and Shawshank, but then just like, oh, and then there was The Mist. It's like, no. Stop yourself here.
Hold
horror
up.
needs as much. Put some respect on horror and realize that The Mist is a fucking incredible horror movie, and like just everything about it. I mean, the one scene that always jumps out to me is the store with the spiders. Get into the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Like it's just absolutely fucking terrifying. Everyone always talks about the ending and like, oh, they run out of gas and the mist, whatever. But to me, it's all about that giant monster too. That's one of my I get chills just thinking about it.
Yep.
That fucking enormous one, because that's just like fucking Lovecraftian.
Yep.
And there's like a level of like, this thing's so big it would not care. Because like I've even seen some reactions where people like when they saw that, oh, that was the one with the tentacle in the store. I'm like, are you an idiot? That thing's so big, it's not fucking going down and crouching for one of its tentacles to go into the store. Like, no, that thing doesn't even know that store exists any more than you know a matchbook sitting on the ground when you're walking through a freaking park. Like, this thing doesn't, and just that, it puts humanity into a different realm. And that's the thing, more so than anything, that gets those people, more so than the empty gas tank, to understand, like, this is over. We got to just kill ourselves. Like, when they
there's
saw
no
that
out.
thing, like, that's one thing to see all these, like, T-Rex or smaller size creatures, but suddenly when you look up and you see that thing, and
Something,
like you're
something that's as tall as a skyscraper.
a mountain. It's
Yeah,
a
mountain,
small mountain, and like when it's walking in the cars, it's bouncing the vehicle. Like there's just something about that just then at that point is where the desolation comes into all their minds, and they understand that like
That's a creature bigger than anything that's ever walked the earth or ever had, or swam or whatever.
Yeah,
There's no
biggest
creature that's ever existed on this planet
Yeah.
as big as that one.
And then, of course, the ending is the big thing. Is like ultimately the reason it's still talked about today is like it is the most bleak and brutal and probably one of the greatest endings in film history. Like it just, and not just horror, not just dark, not just Stephen King, but like it was one of the greatest endings in horror history or in film history, because like an ending can leave people loving a film or hating a film. You can have a great film for 2 hours, but then the last 5 minutes suck. You're going to walk out unhappy.
Yeah.
Or you can have a movie that's kind of mediocre, but the ending's fucking killer. You're going to walk away and enjoy it because people remember the ending. And this is one of the greatest endings of all time because to this day in 2007, 1408, it's a great movie. It's underappreciated and underloved. Nobody really talks about 1408 outside of the Stephen King realm.
Nope.
You don't hear people talking about it. You don't see a lot of reaction videos of 1408, but The Mist, it is still as prevalent today as it was in 2007, and it is 100% because of the ending.
Absolutely.
So it's incredible, and it's well acted across the board, well directed. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Well said, sir. I will say that is, anyone wants to know about The Mist, listen to that man.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I just recently found out that Hayden hadn't watched it. Somehow it slipped.
Oh my god!
It slipped through the.
He texted the group when he watched it.
It slipped through the cracks, and somehow I didn't watch it with him. So sadly, of all the horror movies I experienced with him, just like you before him, I wasn't able to watch The Mist with him. That still breaks my heart, man.
That is a crying shame.
Yeah, that still breaks my heart.
You deserve to watch that with him.
So now, drum roll for number one.
Number one.
And it is going. Oops, I'm going backwards. There we go. Number one you got It, and then everyone else has Doctor Sleep. Which no, it's totally fine. But it made me laugh because again, the whole time, just the small part of my brain, I'm just wanting a jackpot where all four of us are the same, which is fine that it's not. But yeah, so Doctor Sleep, you've got It, I've got Doctor Sleep. So tell us about It. I mean, it's your favorite book, pretty much. So
I'll tell you right now.
And Baraki agrees with you on the number one here. So
does he?
Yep.
Yeah. It 2017 is the greatest Stephen King film adaptation. I'll say it. I'll put my hat and my reputation on it and everything. There's nothing better that's ever been done than It Chapter 1 for a Stephen King adaptation. Simply because what you said earlier nailed it right on the head. They didn't shy away from the source material.
Yeah.
It's the only Stephen King adaptation that stayed so true to the source material that I felt like I was watching what I've read before.
Yeah.
Doctor Sleep is great, but there was some departures from the original source material that did kind of... It always pulls me out a little bit when I'm like, well, why'd they change that? You've heard my visceral reaction to Firestarter, which is on my top 5 list.
Yeah, for books.
It being my number one novel by Stephen King and having an adaptation that followed so closely that it's a coming-of-age tale during a horrible, dark, terrifying time in a town haunted by a monster that eats children.
Yeah.
The fact that they still had the balls to do a coming-of-age tale movie and not just a straight slasher horror, jump scare, not earned.
Yeah.
Is one of the greatest accomplishments in film history. And that's why it is number one for me, is because of that.
Yeah, and Baraki earlier said It is great because you feel you know these people.
Yeah.
And then he says Dark Tower is the same. But yeah, I noticed that message earlier. So now that we're talking about It, I wanted to bring that message back.
Everything that It did right, Dark Tower did wrong for them, like almost exclusively. Like if there's a question, did they get the characters right? It did it better than Dark Tower. Did they get the story right? It did it better than Dark Tower. Did they keep the theme of the source material? Everything is on its side. And when I have such a love for something and they give me something good,
just a perfect adaptation, really.
Exactly. For me, there's differences between the source material and It, but it wasn't something that changed the original source material.
For me, next time the original It novel is adapted, because it will be adapted again at some point, I want it to be a miniseries, and the only thing I complain about, it's both versions, don't split it. Cross-cut like King did.
Exactly.
Do a 10-part series, and cross-cut back and forth, 6, 8, whatever episodes you need, but cross-cut back and forth. This whole isolating the kids versus the adult side of the story, King didn't do it that way for a reason. The story tells better.
To build it up.
Yeah, the story tells better when you're bouncing back and forth. I know generally people don't give audiences credit. They think audiences maybe will get lost, but they won't. Like it will work. So I'm not even saying that that's a negative on It. I'm just saying that I do want to see that next time. No. I want to see, because that's like probably the one gripe is like this one did the same as the first one where you split the kids and the adults, and then it kind of pissed me off with chapter 2 because then they try to bring some kids stuff in. I'm like, well, wait, you can't do both. Like just So, but yeah, the first one is great. Obviously, like I put it in number 3. It's one I overly enjoy. So. Yeah. Overall, let me go back to the chat. There's a couple things. Cody asks, has Darabont ever done anything not good? I don't think so.
I can't think of anything.
No. Let's see. Carol says she wants to watch Gerald's Game. And then Baraki says Gerald's Game is one of the best adaptations. Cody says Flanagan is the Shiznit. Definitely true.
Oh yeah.
Baraki says the Green Mile isn't even horror. It's great because the ending rips your heart out, and it does it because you care about these people. And absolutely right. Yeah, Darabont was good because he got 2 really good dramas and then a horror out of the King realm. Carol says I've consumed everything Flanagan except Gerald's Game. I think the premise put me off a bit, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to roll with the Cotette's recommendation. Yeah, I think, and Carol, let us know what you think when you watch it, because it's one that I love a lot.
Yeah.
So then Mike says Dr. Sleep is my favorite King book of the 21st century, excluding the Dark Tower books, and my top 3 Stephen King books of all time, excluding the Dark Tower books, which I love that I'm not the only one that does that.
Yeah.
Because I'll say that Stan's my absolute favorite King book because Dark Tower doesn't count because it's not one book. and I can't take any one of the books and say rank it because it's like the Dark Tower is a unit.
Oh, it is.
You know what I mean? So,
and then that's not fair to the individual books like It and The Stand to compare 8 books versus that one. Like, it's just not fair to compare that.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else I missed? Baraki says not only is it not only the content but the feel of it. That was Derry, that was Richie, that was Pennywise, all of it. Yeah. They nailed all of that stuff for sure. It was like watching my imagination on screen. He says as well. Alan says this is where we don't talk about how creepy Uncle Stevie was.
Oh yeah.
Baraki says the time shifting wasn't just 2 time frames; it was 3: the kids, the adults, and the history.
That's true.
Yeah. Which Welcome to Derry's coming pretty soon to give us the history.
Well,
it's not even the full history. It's that they're jumping back to the last cycle.
Yeah.
So they'll be back in the 50s or 60s.
From 27 years, so it's probably going to be late 50s.
Okay. And then...
it's going to be late 50s because the book is based off of 1958 is when the cycle's happening. And then what they did is they shifted, so there's the 50s and then the 80s for the book. The 80s is the first cycle in the movie, and then they did modern day. 27 years after that is the 2017 film.
And Carol says, I wonder how it would have looked had they not had the original as a guide. The opening is beat for beat. It's good, but I wonder. Plus all the exclusions of Mike's character, which is true. I wonder how much the original series may have inspired what they did. Because again, that Georgie scene, it did feel beat for you until you actually saw more than what the TV
where they're like, nope, we can't show that it's television.
Yeah, except even the original though was great because just seeing the teeth as he's coming up toward the camera, that was very effective.
Yeah,
trust me, there's a whole generation of people that don't like clowns because of it.
Yeah,
and then I guess I'll speak to Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, you haven't even.
I guess kind of what you said. I'm gonna almost mimic. I think Dr. Sleep might be the best King adaptation, because not only do I think that he captured what King did well, but like I know you had some problems with some changes, but to me, I think Dr. Sleep did better than what King did in the book. I think some of the changes they did, I know that Flanagan...
Were improvements instead of deterrents.
Yeah, exactly, were improvements. I think Flanagan, of course, was walking a tightrope that King never had to walk because there's no way you can make a movie and ignore the fact that The Shining exists movie-wise. It's one of the greatest movies, horror movies of all time. It's beloved by everyone. Even if you can admit that's a horrible adaptation of King's novel and still understand it's a fucking incredible movie.
Yeah.
So he can't really ignore that. So he walked a crazy ass tightrope to like balance between the two. And I think not only did he balance so well, but he brought them things together. But then also to pay off King's ending of The Shining in Dr. Sleep. I feel like he did Abra incredibly. I think that he did Rose the Hat is incredible. I think Dan was wonderful. I loved going back to the Overlook. All the throwback stuff that they had. I haven't watched the director's cut yet. Maybe I'll watch that this weekend. I'm really looking forward to that. I just think it was incredibly well done. Maybe not of all time because there's some good adaptations, but for the 20th century or 21st century, I think Dr. Sleep is far and away the best because like both The Mist and Dr. Sleep to me, both of them are ones that improved on King's work. And I think for me, that's why it's number 3 because it didn't improve on King's work, which again, I'm not going to say they have to because how can you improve on it?
Yeah.
Like that's it's a stellar novel, but I think The Mist and Dr. Sleep were both great, but I think both film adaptations took them to fucking perfection by some changes. Darabont chose to have like one of the bleakest endings of all time. King said, I couldn't believe it. I wish I had thought of it. We covered it after Dr. Sleep. King said in an interview, Dr. Sleep did a lot to help kind of build a bridge between him and Kubrick a little bit. Like even it softened King a little bit to his opinion on Kubrick stuff because it kind of bridged that gap a little bit. And for that, I got to respect it. And just overall, Flanagan, just like Gerald's Game, this should have been an impossible task. It's like when we've talked about before the slight debate, is it Darabont or is it Flanagan? Which guy is the MVP? Of course, I think Darabont's made better movies, but Flanagan has degree of difficulty. Like, Darabont wasn't having to deal with the Kubrick and the King dichotomy. He didn't have to deal with a woman that's chained to a bed and her lover died. Like those are some freaking hard ass things and that's why Flanagan needs to do the Dark Tower. Also, that is why he is the only guy I would say right now. He's the only guy I want to see. Anybody else get signed on to do a Dark Tower series for HBO or for the Netflix, I'll be slightly disappointed because Mike Flanagan has said he wants to do it. And I think that because of these things he's proven, if there's one guy that walks on water and one guy that can fucking take a really hard to adapt thing like the Dark Tower, it's going to be Flanagan. So and Dr. Sleep is his crown jewel in my opinion.
And let's
for King.
Sure.
Haunting a Hill House, I would say is above Dr. Sleep for his
Midnight
overall.
Mass is up there too
for his overall.
If you're gonna talk great stuff, Midnight Mass was fantastic. But one thing I want to say about the debate between Flanagan and Darabont, that's a pretty good one. Let's talk about the fact that Darabont did 2 short stories, which means that he has room to expand and do his own thing. The Mist ending, he did his own thing.
Yeah.
King just left it ambiguous.
Yeah.
Darabont actually gave us an ending.
Yeah.
Shawshank was just a little short story.
Yeah,
little novella.
Yeah.
So when you have that versus, doing a full-fledged novel, which, I mean, Darabont did with the Green Mile.
Green Mile,
Let's be fair. 1 out of his 3 he did. But doing 2 novels, and like you said, the baggage that comes with Gerald's Game and the baggage that comes with Dr. Sleep is
huge.
Unreal.
Like when they originally said they were going to do a movie, I was like, they can't. Like how?
We honestly
talked about it on the show.
We talked about it. How are they going to do the ending?
Or no, when did Dr. Sleep come out again? No, yeah, we were doing the show.
Yeah,
and because I remember us saying like, how are they going to do
Wasn't
this?
It like 2016?
Yeah, 2019.
19, yeah.
So we were debating like, are they going to ignore the Kubrick stuff? Are they not? Like they can't ignore the Kubrick stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually, of course, we got the movie. But yeah, I just think it stands at the zenith of 21st century King stuff. It's incredible. I do want to watch the director's cut, and also let's not sneeze at the fact that all of us cringe when we think of the Baseball Boy.
Oh God!
Like Flanagan, absolutely.
The worst part about that is he said that it was worse, and they made him tone it down.
King told him to tone it down.
That's right. King told him to tone it down.
Yeah, he's like, I can't bring my wife to watch this, man. You got to tone this down. Like, I won't be able to bring my wife to the premiere.
My God, Flanagan.
Yeah, so he toned it back. And yeah, I'm just like, what was it before?
Is it in the director's cut?
No, I don't think.
I think they cut it and no one's going to see it.
Yeah, exactly. So
Baraki says, Baraki says, I would love to see what Dennis Villanueva would do with Dark Tower, any format, but especially a series like Game of Thrones. Though Dark Tower doesn't really lend itself well to a series like that, maybe. I think the Dark Tower would absolutely make a killer 2 to 3 season series.
I think you can do it in a series. I think that's the best way to do it. Really, I don't think film's ever going to work.
I don't.
Movies are the wrong formula.
Oh, Villanueva, that's the guy that did Dune, isn't it?
Yeah. Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I watched Dune for the first time. I'll tell you.
Oh, did you watch it?
Oh yeah, didn't I tell you that I watched it?
I don't know if you told me, but
oh,
all right.
Dude, it was fantastic.
He's great.
I loved it, and I pissed me off so bad that they did one movie where it's like, okay, here's the setup. Now wait 4 years for the next one, and I went, oh my God, they had the balls to do that? Why didn't they do that with the Dark Tower? Why don't they do that with more things?
Yeah.
Look how successful this was. What the hell? Make a good product and people are going to want to see it.
Yeah.
So...
In the chat, Carol says, yes, welcome to Derry. Alan says the burning at the black spot, that would have been would be relative and completely ambiguous enough to get it into the time after that cycle. And he says, could have seen more of that in the second chapter. Brock says Hollywood would never allow the black spot scene to be included nowadays. I think they would. I actually think that they would. I mean,
there's a lot of stuff.
The whole Black Wall Street thing was covered in the Watchmen series. So,
oh really?
Yeah. So, I don't think they'd be against that.
Let's be perfectly honest. If we can have Django Unchained, we're gonna be okay having the black spot, right?
And then Carol says Alan agreed. Everyone loves a trilogy. They could have done more in there had they gone that route. Talk about it. And then that catches up to where you were at with Denis Villeneuve. So that's our kind of, and I think this is so much better than just covering an article of somebody else that did this. So I know we haven't seen them all, but it was definitely fun. But yeah, maybe I'll. This is inspired. Maybe I'll watch the Dr. Sleep director's cut.
I kind of want to watch it too.
So, that I think that is going to wrap.
No, don't watch Dr. Sleep director's cut because we got to do the deep dive. Save it for that.
Yeah, I guess
save it. You have to save it.
You just reread it. So you can't
I just reread it, and I can read it again,
and I can watch it again.
No.
All right, so that'll wrap us. I did have an email in the mailbag, but we'll save it for the next episode because we have. Yeah. I figured this might fill up pretty long, and the email is not one that I want to short change at all.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and hit the closing info real quick.
So no email jingle. #Town's terrible.
You can sing it for us live if you want.
No, I'm good.
So if you want to subscribe, rate, and review us, you can do that on any podcasting service. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. Everything we covered here will be linked over there if you want to go read it in their entirety. Become a Patreon member over at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver if you want to make us your symbol monkey and have us do... because, that's the thing is, like, on there, we're basically taking requests for things that maybe aren't Dark Tower related that we may not ever get to on the normal show. So, and then Peter can let you know all the other contact info.
Best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Again, we have that one email in the bag. Give us more, please. Feed us. We need more. Watch our shows live. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Make sure to subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications. Then please like our videos if you like it. And then,
I got a lot of likes on this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Was
calling out in the chat. Yeah,
I was calling people
give
out.
him props for that.
That's what I think good YouTube hosts do. I guess I haven't learned that part yet.
Yeah, you gotta say like it.
Yeah, likes during the live stream. That's the most we've ever had. So thank you for that.
Click it right down there. Just click it. And then our social media is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. Instagram is Dark Tower Palaver, all one word. And then check out our merchandise on tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry, I kind of ended really weird there. I'm sorry, Tad.
Really ambiguously.
That was my bad. It seemed like I was going to say something else, but I was done. I'm sorry. Well, that was one of the worst handoffs I've ever given you. My bad. Jeez.
Well, on the podcast side, we'll sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, everyone in the chat, thank you guys for joining us. Lively crowd this time.
You know what? Carol's asking for it. I'm going to give it to her. This YouTube crowd has been great. I'm going to give it to them as like an exclusive. Email. It's the email. Tad's going to read us what people wrote to us.
Oh, man.
There you go.
I love it. Very well.
Just for you,
done.
Carol. You asked for it. You're a Patreon. You got it.
You guys are awesome. Like I said, this is one of the more lively crowds we've had in a while, and a big crowd, too. So thank you guys for joining us. You guys are awesome to be part of the conversation. Can't read through everyone because everyone did well. There's too many people, and I can't go through them all because I'll fucking lose it. There's just too many names. I know I'll miss something and I'll feel bad about it. So thank you all.
Thank you all.
You guys are awesome.
Everyone that showed up, even if you just left one message or didn't say anything, thank you all for being here. It is always so much more fun when we have interaction like this and having conversations, getting your side of it. We had great discussions about the movies and everything like that. It was awesome.
Yep. And we'll be back in a fortnight for a book club. Indeed.
You love saying that. Fortnite.
Indeed. See you guys.
Bye.